Hello and welcome back to Lorehammer. I'm your host Trevor Buzak, and joining me for the first time, although not the first time we've podcasted together, we got Court from Funkatronic Rex podcast. Welcome, homie.
Good to be here. Thank you, Trevor. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah, you had me on your guys' show one time and we had a killer time. I think it was episode 11, so go check that out. But like we were laughing the whole fucking time.
Yeah, it was great. It was a longtime fan, and I've like been listening to Lorehammer forever. So to have you on was like this weird, crazy dream come true. But yeah, it was a good time, man. We had a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
A lot of fun. And joining us as well, first time I've met Logan, but welcome to the show. You're one of Court's buddies. How's it going?
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Yeah, Court and I, we both hang out a lot at Funkatronic Rex. He runs a lot of the events, and I'm his little rules lawyer that helps him on the side. So we have a good time down there.
Nice, nice. Yeah, maybe let's talk a little bit about that real quick, kind of where you guys come from, because you got some cool stuff going on.
Yeah. So I guess I'll go first. I've been playing Warhammer and stuff since fourth-ish edition, and going to Funk is how I met Court and started doing the events and stuff. And then he's actually helping me right now work on a YouTube project, Hydra Thoughts, if you want to come check that out. We talk about conspiracies, true crime, cryptids, nerd stuff, all the fun things you can think of. We just throw it in there for a good time.
Yeah, just anything that can just kind of fire that creative, whoa, kind of brain idea. I like that. Cool. So Funkatronic Rex is a store, a game store?
Yeah, so it's a board, card, tabletop war game RPG store in Phoenix, Arizona, and it's been home to us for quite some time. And I was doing a podcast with them for we're in the 15 episodes, 16 episodes, I think, something like that. I can check at some point. But yeah, it's been cool. We were just talking nerd stuff, talking anything from D&D, 40K, AOS, Magic, all that. And Logan and I met years ago, and we're just peas in a pod as far as 40K goes.
Yeah.
So
For those,
yeah, and I've been playing not since, but I started in 3rd edition. This is my relic.
yeah, right now you're holding up that glorious Space Marine Codex, one of the best fucking releases of all GW, man. If you can get your hand on any of that old stuff, it's killer.
Yeah, I bought the when the Black Templar box set came out, I bought it specifically because the Codex had that really cool artwork on it.
John Blanche.
Yeah, just
John Blanche artwork. So good. So good.
gorgeous artwork.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll just go on a quick derailment. Like, so you guys are both fucking veterans like me, which is, it's rare. There's a lot of new people in 40K, and the game has changed so much since we got into it. How do you guys feel real quick about like where 40K is going? Like the art style, it's not quite the same, I would say. What are your thoughts?
So I love the game. I love it. And to be honest, I stopped after 4th edition, and mostly because I was going to college and like no one was playing in Hollywood when I was there, really. At least none of my friend group. So I started looking back at like when 9th was out, and I was like, dude, I need 4 books to play this. Like, this is not how I remember. And the story had changed, and there was so much. And then so when 10th rolled through, I was like, you know what, I'll give this a shot. And I fell back in love with it. But again, like the grim dark that I look at in like this with John Blanche and like all the old school art and stuff just isn't there for me as much. So you kind of have to make it your own. In my way, like I try and grim dark paint everything, and I always viewed like the grim darkness of the far future, 40K, as like a setting. I don't necessarily want it to progress story-wise. Like, some of that's cool, and that's just a personal opinion, but like I love it as a setting. I love hearing like little stories that don't have resolution necessarily,
Man, like back in the day, there was just so many one-liners that they intentionally gave you that just set up so much. They're like, here's this one line, run with it. Let's see what you can come up with. Oh, you want to make a land speeder deodorant stick? Go for it. You want to make Tupperware container towel houses? Let's make it happen. Where it's definitely more rigid and formalized now. But what do you do?
Yeah, and it's alive, and I think that we should be thankful for that. Like, I think there's a lot of nitpicking for sure, and some of it's valid, but like we have a game system that is over 30 years old that is thriving. And I think there's
Thriving, man. Like even just on like my end
fucking
of
Space Marine 2. Sorry, but like,
oh,
oh
Great
wow.
game.
Like it's thriving.
killer.
It's thriving. So we should be thankful for that we have a game that hasn't been on the brink of death, really.
Yeah. You know, there's been a couple spots where that were pretty grim dark for us. You know, there was a Matt Ward era, but like ultimately, like you said, man, there's more and more people each and every day coming in, and we're in probably still the best era of 40K. Like, you know, we get content constantly, we get all the sweet minis, like the technology nowadays as opposed to what it was back in the day of printing or casting and molding all this stuff. We're in a different world, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Logan, what you got?
I've liked the changes, so I'm in a certain minority of fans. I didn't mind the shift to Primaris.
Okay, so boot him real quick.
I know.
Who in the chat wants to join instead?
Yeah, I know. I'm out of here. But no, so actually, funny thing, tangent of a tangent. For the longest time, I felt that way about Spartan 4s in Halo. I hated them. I'm like, it breaks the lore. It's annoying, and I hated them. But I was okay with Primaris, and once I realized it was the same kind of thing, I'm like, oh, so I don't hate the Spartan 4s as much anymore. But I think it was helpful for the health of the game. I think it needed to happen because it gave them an easy way to refresh everything. It pushed the lore forward, which, as fun as Grimdark is, it had been in a certain spot for so long. And with that, they've been able to grow it from the little, like, it was kind of a niche thing before, but now I see things in the mall for Warhammer.
Oh, it's mainstream,
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, normies know what Warhammer is, and it's like, that's
Yep.
huge, and it's because they keep dumbing down the rules, which I'm not the biggest fans of, but they're dumbing them down, making the hobby more accessible for people. And I think it's good they have the Horus Heresy separate from that, because that gives everyone who wants the old feeling, they can get it. It's the different rule system. But overall, I think it's been super helpful for the hobby.
Can I just say, we started in the fucking mall. Like, I remember going to Arizona Mills when I was in high school with my buddy Grant.
Hopping on a pedal bike.
Dude, oh, no, this was far. Like, we were like, we schlepped it in my buddy's van, and it was like, we'd walk in there, and we pass the food court, we get our little free samples, and we go right to the Games Workshop, and it was like the smallest space within the store. But like, yeah, and people, you'd see the like looky-loos walk in like, no, this isn't for us. And they would just like leave, you know?
Yeah. They walk past holding their nose, you know, trying not to get overwhelmed by the smell. Like, fuck.
Yeah. So
I played exclusively in garages until I found Funk, and that was the first time I actually started playing at stores. But before that, it was exclusively garages. I was lucky to find a big group of people that we just rotated whose house we were at. And we actually have we call it the heirloom table now because it's gone from so many people's houses. Right now it's at Marcos's house court, but it's eventually going to come to my house when I finish my office.
It's your own relic. It's the Imperial Relic that you have.
It is. It is our Warhammer relic, the table of friendship.
And just to say, speaking of like Primaris, excuse me, speaking of Primaris, so one of the ideas when we talked about Logan and I jumping on this episode, I was like, well, what do you thinking you want to do? And he was like, well, why don't we talk about the jump to Primaris Marines? I was like, do we really want to go there?
Trevor can't handle that kind of stress.
No.
He can't do it.
I didn't know it was a sore spot.
You know what? I talk a lot of shit about the new stuff, but one of the coolest things in my mind that they did with and it came out with 8th edition, was they literally ripped the galaxy in half with the Great Rift, the Cicatrix Maledictum, where they just rip the galaxy in half. Now we got two completely separate settings, essentially, once again, where, you know, if you're on the northern half of it, it's like ultra grim dark. There's no one coming to save you. And then we kind of got the, the southern half where it's a little more like kosher. Things are more controlled and maintained, where, it's not the wild, wild west of the northern half of the Rift. So I think that's one of my favorite parts of what they've done in the last handful of years.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. But I will add, I'm mad because they got rid of the normal land speeders on the tabletop. I have 6 of those bad boys, and I ran them all the time. And now I can't. I have to upgrade to the big Primaris brick ones. And while they look cool, they don't do the same thing, and I'm mad about it. So I get it, but I think it's healthy overall.
Yeah. Well, we'll carry on to the actual show and not get too distracted here. We're talking today in this episode 120. We're talking Imperial Relics, Chaos Artifacts, and Xenos Curiosities. So yeah, we're gonna dive into some of these random things that are pretty like unique and wild. I tried not to just pick up like, oh, this power sword's a relic because this guy wielded it and he was a badass. Like I'm trying to pick stuff that was a little more like, how does that work? Like what are the actual mechanics behind this? Like this item. So we'll get into that in a second. But before we do, come join the Discord. We got a very active Discord. I think we just broke 3,000 members the other month there, which is pretty fucking cool. Like that's a lot of people.
That's rad.
Yeah, I grew up in a church of like 300 people, so I always compare it to like putting 300 people in the sanctuary. And a couple times I spoke at the front there and looking across 300 people, and then now knowing it's like, holy fuck, this month we got like over 200,000 downloads. And man, it's a wild world. People are out there, and it's cool to be able to connect with people. Like because you two are just listeners of the show too, so it's super cool to be able to interact with everyone. So go join the Discord. We have all types of fun and interesting things happening. The current thing we have going on is the gangs versus Arbites warfare, and we just started voting on it this month, where we're taking a bunch of gangs and we're battling it against other gangs, and then voting who had cooler lore. And eventually, the Arbites are going to step in and see if they can quell this little rebellion on the necromunity planet that we came up with. So definitely go check out the Discord. If you need a link, just there in the show notes, or shoot us a message and I'll get you it.
Yeah, and then also make sure you guys jump on the Patreon. I have been on there since February of 2023. I am a patron of the Lorehammer Patreon. So join the Imperial Tithe. If we want to get scary with it, we can join the Imperial Tithe and support the show. Anybody that jumps on, like, you guys are really helping for sure. There's an ad-free version of the podcast for just $2.50. That's it. And then there's a video version at $5, and you guys really help push Lorehammer. Like when you guys contribute and you're part of Patreon, you're the ones that are really making this happen. So please jump on.
Yeah, and that's only $2 or $5 a month, so it's a fucking hell of a deal. And we're releasing a bunch of content nowadays. So, and I've said this in a bunch of episodes. I know a number that if we reach that number, I'm going to try to get 3 episodes a week of Lorehammer happening. I'm filling out the notes, and like so far, I feel like I can keep up with that level of progression. Like this week, we're recording 4 times actually. So go support the show and throw us a couple bucks if you like what we do.
That's awesome. Also, guys, please join the live stream on Patreon. We have a live chat going on. We can see all the comments you guys are saying, and we are going to have a call-in guest at the end of the show. Maybe more. I don't know.
Stay tuned and figure out how many people can join at once. Let's crash the system.
Woo!
No, we already broke my computer once. I'll do it again.
We got Grimaldus saying friend hammer. Yeah, that's what this has always been about for me. So let's dive into the actual episode here. Like I said, we're talking Imperial Relics, Chaos Artifacts, and Xenos Curiosities. So let's talk a little bit about Imperial Relics, give you a little rundown. Imperial Relics are the most treasured remnants of a vast and ancient empire, each one a symbol of humanity's enduring will to survive against the odds. These items, many forged during the Great Crusade or the Age of Strife, are imbued with great significance, often guarded zealously by the Adeptus Mechanicus or the Inquisition. Some relics, such as the mighty power sword of the Emperor's champion or the scepter of the High Lords, are revered for their connection to the Emperor himself, acting as physical manifestations of its divine authority. Others, like the Cloak of Saint Celestine, are revered not only for their historical importance, but also their mysterious, almost miraculous powers they bestow. Whether ancient weapons, sacred texts, or symbols of the Emperor's will, these relics serve as reminders of mankind's past glory and are frequently sought by those who wish to harness their power for the Imperium's protection or their own gain. Yeah, the fun thing about the Imperium is you can almost turn anything into a relic. There's a lot of martyrs, and therefore there's a lot of guns that were just wielded by Lasman guy over there who died in combat, but now he's a hero because he gave his life for the Emperor. And then somehow, because it's the 40k universe, maybe that las gun is slightly more accurate than every other las gun out there, just because the guy who wielded it died doing a good job for the Emperor. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that, but let's jump to a little description about chaos artifacts.
Yes, so chaos artifacts. Chaos artifacts are cursed creations forged in the fires of the warp and tainted by the dark powers of the ruinous powers. These items are not only powerful, but also deeply corrupting, drawing those who wield them into the service of chaos. Items like demon weapons, which house the spirits of demons themselves, are among the most infamous, able to tear through flesh and soul with each swing. The Eye of the Gods, a relic said to offer its bearer a direct connection to the chaos gods, can bestow great boons, though at the cost of the bearer's sanity and soul. Even mundane objects such as chaos stapler, no, not chaos stapler, such as marked armor of Imperial Relics. I thought that'd be cool. Chaos stapler. Chaos marked
We'll
armor.
get there. We can add it.
Yeah,
You know, GW lets us add thing to their universe, so we'll make it
that's
happen.
right. The chaos marked armor of infernal relics pulse with energies of the warp, allowing their users to draw upon unnatural strength, regeneration, and dark sorcery. For those who embrace chaos, these artifacts are tools of power and symbols of their devotion to the dark entities, but they come with the risk of slow damnation, turning the wielders into twisted, monstrous reflections of their former selves. Man, that's like the classic like devil at the crossroads vibe, you know, the just like, hey, you want infinite power? Cool. It comes with a price. And you're like, yeah, sure, I'll take that. That sounds good. If I have infinite power, I'm probably fine. And like, no, over time, you sure as hell are not. But it makes for really cool, interesting, like, man, the cost and benefits analysis of like a chaos weapon, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a great way, like, to when you're coming up with, like, you know, tons of people do homebrew, to come up with your own relics or artifacts where what is that monkey paw curse, where what's the pro and what's the con, where you don't necessarily get that with the Imperial relics, but definitely with the chaos ones.
Or do you, but in a different way?
I was going to say, you have to die to make the relic work, so I mean, it's the same thing for the Imperial Relics. It's just you die first, and then someone else uses it. But Chaos, you use it and die.
Fun distinction.
Slow death versus instant death. Yeah.
All right. So I guess that means I'm taking Xenos Curiosities. Xenos Curiosities are relics from an ancient and mysterious civilizations across the galaxy, often far older and more advanced than anything the Imperium could conceive. These artifacts span vast array of shapes, sizes, and purpose, each one holding secrets and powers that elude human understanding. The webway portals of the ancient Eldar allow for instantaneous travel across the galaxy, while Catan shards, remnants of godlike beings from the galaxy's primordial past, contain unimaginable destructive power. The Vox crystals of the Tau can tap into and manipulate the very fabric of communication, allowing the Tau to achieve perfect synchronization across vast distances. Even seemingly mundane objects, such as the spy flies of Jakaro, carry with them sophisticated technologies that can alter the course of a battle or great unparalleled surveillances. For the unprepared, contact with these relics can be perilous. Many are imbued with psychic energies or eldritch forces that can warp or destroy those who seek to wield them. Xenos Curiosities are as enigmatic as their creators, offering power, but often at a great risk to those who dare study them.
Yeah, and it's cool, like with you know, chaos artifacts. Those are typically reserved for chaos people, but even the Imperium wants Xenos Curiosities and stuff. Everyone kind of could potentially use these and kind of do want them as well. You know, they don't have that warp taint, so they're a little more accessible to the common person.
Yeah, and I think there's more mystery with them too. I think the Imperium has not a great understanding of chaos as far as like specificities of like, oh, well, that sword does this thing, oh, that thing, this demon has that part. But I think with the Xeno stuff, and Mark, you were talking about like homebrewing, I think there's a lot you could just kind of go, Yeah, the ancient Eldar relic that did this thing with this spirit stone, and then this guy had this sword. Like, you can go wild with Xeno stuff and just kind of say, "Yep, fuck it, that's it." Like that, I created
Yep.
it. Sure.
Unknown Xenos came up with this 6 million years ago. Good luck proving me otherwise. Like, yeah, you can just do
Yeah.
whatever you want with it for sure.
I think currently lore wise, that new Inquisitor they introduced last edition, the one in black armor with the dragon, I think she uses an Eldar gun
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
her weapon. So definitely more user friendly than the Chaos stuff.
Yeah, it's always cool, like when you see Imperial models that like slightly tweak these Xenos weapons. Like another famous one are the Death Watch phase swords. I forget what they call them, but basically they're like Necron phase weapons. But then they're on an Imperial hilt with a Aquila, but then it's glowing green and it cuts through any matter. Like, yeah, it's very cool when you kind of get this like cross between Imperial and Xenos tech going.
And their justification for it too is fun, where it's like, no, it's cool if we use Xenotech for like the Imperium. Like, we're using it for good, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it's not heresy. It's not going to taint you.
Tell that to the Inquisitors. Always watching over your shoulder every time you pull the trigger of that Xenos weapon. Like, yeah, it's kosher, but is it? Yeah. Yeah, so let's talk about some very specific Imperial relics, and like I said, I tried to choose ones that were either very powerful or very unique, or just had some type of era mystery that was like, what the hell? How does this actually work? And I think the greatest of all Imperial relics we'll start off with is the Standard Template Construct, or the STC. The Standard Template Construct are the most legendary sought-after relics in 40k. They are an ancient, almost mythical blueprints and construction systems for humanity's golden age of technology. Around the 25th millennia, when humans first began to colonize the stars, STCs were originally designed to provide settlers with a means to create almost any structure or tool they might need to survive, allowing for the rapid, self-sufficient expanse of human colonies across the galaxy. So their function and purpose. An STC was essentially a super advanced construction database paired with fabrication instructions, almost like a universal blueprint. Using advanced AI and nanotech, STCs could guide colonists in creating anything from weapons and vehicles to advanced farming equipment and HAB units, depending on the situation. This ability to generate complex machinery made STCs invaluable, as they allowed humans to replicate anything they needed on distant worlds without waiting for supply lines of Terra. Yeah, these are like the super 3D printers of the time, man. You just like, you want a HAB block? Absolutely, would make that for you. It doesn't matter how big or small, they can kind of just really go wild with it. And yeah, they can just make anything.
yeah, and you see this nowadays in what they call IKEA manuals. It's like, and I'm kind of curious too, and maybe we'll get into it a little bit. Like, where was the line on, like, okay, I mean, it says like everything from this to this, but like, were we talking coffee? Were we talking sustenance of food and stuff as well? Like, hey, if you're on this planet, this is going to help keep you alive with sustenance, and this is how you farm and all that. And the idea of who gets what, like when you're colonizing planet X, do you go with a certain set of STCs knowing what that planet is like, and your buddy who's going to planet Y to colonize that, he has the basic ones as well, but a different subset too, because that planet is meant to be like a forge world, I would assume so.
Yeah, like it's interesting. Like when these things were made, like this is pre-Imperium, this is pre-indoctrination, kind of pre-religious zealotry and all that kind of stuff. So like, they're in the golden age of humanity, and like, why almost limit yourself? I kind of think of the Voyager probe, I think, where they basically shot a probe with all of the knowledge of humans had at the moment into space, and just like, if it reaches aliens or whatever, they'll kind of get a vibe of who we are. And it's not like when they shot one of those out or shoot one of those out, they're like shooting a specific set of information to the galactic north and a specific set to the galactic heath. Like, you can compact all of human information pretty easily. So why not just have it all? But yeah, the other thing about like this era is, since it's not the primary setting of 40K and it's like 15,000 years ago, like fucking who knows, man? Who the fuck knows?
How big are the STCs? Did we not get there yet?
I think we'll get there. Yeah, like some of them are like as big as spaceships, I believe, and others can be more like compact micrograde. Like I really kind of picture them as 3D printers, but with like nanobots.
That's pretty cool.
And there's some AI capabilities with it too, which I think you're going to touch upon as well.
Yeah. Many STCs are rumored to have AI capabilities, able to assess a colony's situation and create tools suited specifically to local resources and conditions. This also means that they could evolve designs and adapt them based on current needs, rather than merely producing standardized blueprints. However, after the Age of Strife, when the Imperium enforced strict controls on artificial intelligence, any remaining STC AIs became highly forbidden and only considered heretical technology. Yeah, so that kind of really paints a picture too. Like that combination of AI and being able to just create random stuff on the fly. Like, man, we're entering this AI era right now in our time, and just seeing what the AI can calculate and knowing that that fucking thing's already smarter than all three of us combined and knows more than all three of us combined and can write better poetry than all three of us combined, can come up with more science than all three of us combined. Like, very cool that that's kind of incorporated in these STCs too. So when they go colonize, they can really just meet any situation at hand.
Yeah, I think that's speaks to the kind of question that I had before, is like the AI drives the uniqueness of what you would need. Like
Yeah.
Planet X, okay, yeah, you're adapting to do this. Planet Y, oh, okay, so you need to do this. And the idea that I think we now can start, like we've had this idea of what AI is for decades, you know, ever since we all saw Terminator 2 and we were talking about like, oh, Skynet, like what does it do? And now we can see it in real time when I type on ChatGPT, write me a song in the style of Nick Cave, you know, or write an outline for a campaign for Warhammer 40K that's in the flavor of Nachmund or something, and it does it.
Yeah.
So the idea of like colonizing a planet and popping in like, these are our coordinates, this is what we're at, this is our soil sample, this is the acidity in the air, da 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 da, da, and it just going do 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 do. Here's how you need to adapt to this environment. And I think it's cool to see how AI works in relation to our real lives now, and kind of compare it to the fantastic idea of how it would compare to colonizing in the 41st millennium.
Yeah. And like sometimes it might be as simple as like on this planet, the dirt is just slightly more dense. So we've come up with this 4-pronged rake as opposed to your typical 5-prong rake. You know, just simple things like that to just make everything easier and better. Stuff that like you wouldn't be able to analyze, but it analyzes and it knows, and it comes up with this cool little blueprint for you.
So I work in tech right now, so I get to see all the silly things that AI do. Like you guys get to see the customer facing stuff, but I'm seeing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. So that's like, yes, AI is good, but I'm also picturing the goofy thing. So it lands on a planet, it's full of water, and it goes, "Oh, I need drinkable water," when the water's already drinkable. So it's trying to make more water or something. So I'm just picturing the
Yeah, it's trying to import water from a different place because you're like, oh, well, we're on the water world. We don't want to use up the
exactly.
water on the water world, so we got to import the water to the water world.
Yeah, all the goobery things that the AI is going to do. Like you said, the 3-prong rake. Oh, well, now I need a 15-prong rake. It's like, I didn't need that, but the AI said I did.
It's almost like the scene in Fantasia when I'm a huge Disney nerd too. It's almost like a scene in Fantasia when Mickey is like doing the sorcery with all the brooms, and all they keep doing is grabbing water
Yeah.
from the thing, and they don't stop. And it's just like, well, we were told to do this. We're magic.
We're
And
magic.
Purge Seraph in the chat, I think, makes a really good point. He's talking about the golden age makes me think it's more like Star Trek than 40K we know it. And I think that's absolutely correct, especially in that time, that era. It was the golden age. Like we are out to colonize. We are out to find out. We are moving forward. We are going to places where, you know, boldly going where no one has gone before, and we are making the way.
Yeah. What in Star Trek is it called the replicators that you know, you can be like decaf Earl Grey, and then it makes you that, and it just like assembles a T. You know, what are those called?
Yes.
Oh man.
This is why
I don't
the
know if it's
internet
replicator.
exists.
Well, yeah, and this is why the
Um,
chat is also super useful. They'll give me the right answer here. How do I make my Earl Grey tea? Picard needs to know.
Yeah, see, yeah, it synthesizes meals on demand. It synthesizes meals on demand. Yep, 100%.
Yeah.
That's double nerd for you when we're talking Star Trek on a Lorehammer podcast. Double nerd.
Oh yeah, yeah. Fuck. Oh, my wife's gonna leave me, isn't she? Once she finds out. Oh god. The rarity.
yeah, now she's gonna know you're a big nerd, and this is what she's gonna.
As if it wasn't clear
Now
before.
she knows.
Right.
Yeah, now it's clear.
So let's talk about the rarity and value. By the 41st millennia, fully intact STCs are considered one of the rarest finds in the galaxy. The vast majority were lost during the Dark Age of Strife and long periods of the galactic upheaval that followed. Now, even fragments of an STC known as STC templates are priceless. The Mechanicus explorator fleets scour the galaxy in hopes to find them. Recovering even one STC fragment can lead to advancements or improvements in Imperial technology, such as more efficient lasguns, improved power armor, or new vehicle patterns.
I wonder if they ever found one of these and they thought it was Xenos or heretic stuff because it's so powerful and it doesn't align with the current Imperium.
But it would, I mean, an STC is Imperium made, so I would bet they could have a little bit of, I mean, the Mechanicus is going to drool over it. You know, if somebody else found it, perhaps, if the Inquisition maybe, but I love the idea also that old technology is better than what we have now. I think that's a really cool fantasy setting of we have something that was used years and years ago that is better than what we have now, and we need to go find it. Like we found the lasgun that shoots better. It has a better battery, and it was made, 10,000 years ago versus now. That's rad.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the appeals of 40K where, we were griping a little bit earlier at the beginning of the show of just how different new 40K is and how now in new 40K they seem to be able to advance technology, where when we were growing up, it's like you're lighting your sacred or your candles and you're dabbing in the sacred oils, which is just WD-40, but you don't fucking know that. You're an idiot. You're ingrained in this indoctrination. There's no improvement. In fact, improvement is heretical because you're messing with like sacred designs from the ancient past,
Yeah, I mean, I still have an iPod that works really well, and I need constant updates on this new phone. Like that old shit works sometimes better than the new stuff, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Windows 11 being a lot of bloatware and Windows 10 was fine.
I don't know.
Bring back XP.
Bring back DOS. STC influence on Imperial technology. The technology of the Imperium is rooted in STC patterns. Many of the machines, weapons, and vehicles used by the Imperium, like the Rhino Transport, Lehman Russ tank, and the Baneblade Super Heavy tank, are based on rediscovered or partially preserved STC templates. However, the Imperium's understanding of these templates is often incomplete, leading to a cargo cult mentality in the Adeptus Mechanicus. They see technology as divine, and any adjustments or variations to the sacred STC patterns are considered heresy.
That's rad. I love the idea that the Land Raider, the Lehman Russ, the Rhinos, like all that stuff that we have now in the 41st millennium are still not complete. Like they're as good as they're going to get with what they've collected now, but they're only STC template based. They're not actual like primo ready to go the way it was intended. That's killer. I love that.
Yeah, I just picture like, you have a computer and over 5 years you've just created like so many save files, delete files, save files, and eventually your disk space becomes corrupted and your once terabyte drive, you can now only have access to five gigs of it or whatever, and everything else is just this corrupted bloatware essentially that you no longer, it's fragmented.
That's a really good way to put it, I think, and I think that makes visual sense too. Absolutely.
I'm wondering because I remember going through the Dark Imperium books where they were introducing all the new Primaris stuff like the repulsors and the Gravis armor and stuff. I don't think, and maybe chat knows if any of that was based on an STC that Call found or if those are all Call originals. Because it's kind of crazy to me to think that like the Land Raider, the Rhino, all these amazing tanks that we've had forever are STC based, but all the new stuff is Paul's design. I don't know. I don't remember seeing that in the Dark Imperium, but that's an interesting, maybe a follow up for later. See if that's the case or not.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah, like I should do a call episode at some point. I try not to pervert my mind with such heresies, but I think it has to happen. I've been doing a lot of new content here with Lorehammer, so maybe we'll dip our toes in that at one point. Hey, shout out to Icarus in the chat. Happy birthday, my dude. You can listen to this before you go to bed. Every year now, you can hear me wish you, Icarus, a happy birthday, friend. Enjoy.
Happy birthday, bud.
Purge Seraph says, humanity is in a more dire situation, making them willing to overlook their religious superstitions, and why we're seeing more advancements in our opinion. Sure, but also like that doesn't just make technology happen, like I always think of like I know how I can tell you how a phone works, but there is no way in hell I would ever be able to make a phone by myself. There's this example of some guy trying to make a toaster in his garage, just as toaster, something so simple, that's just a heating element and you're just trying to make some toast. And this guy spent a whole bunch of money and he individually was not able to make a toaster. The one big thing he had problems making was just plastic. The way he got around that was he was like, okay, well, I'll just go mine plastic in like a scrapyard off of cars or whatever, melt it down and kind of make my own that way. But like he couldn't make plastic himself. He didn't have the tools to go mine petrol and then do it. Like I don't even fucking know. So I just feel like, yeah, okay, they might be in a more dire situation, but if like that doesn't give you the actual ideas of how to make these things work. Like none of us here could make a computer.
No, but I think the allowance, like I think he has a point talking about, like the resurrection of Gilliman, like allowing that kind of. I mean, Logan, you can probably speak to that a little bit more, but I think there is a little bit more of the less rigidity in what the Imperium is allowing per se. I don't know. What do you think, Logan?
Yeah, because in a lot of the books, Gilliman, people like the Ecclesiastes will come to Gilliman and they'll say, "Oh, your father is a god," and he goes, "No, he's not. My father would hate this Imperium. This isn't the Imperium he built." So that kind of backs up what Chat was saying, that it's with less religious zealotry, it makes it easier for Gilliman to give Call permission to modify the Emperor's design. Where for you guys growing up in third edition or up to this, that's heresy. That's straight unbelievable heresy. But for me, kind of, yeah, I see you. But for me, kind of newer coming into it, 8th edition is really where I started getting the lore and stuff. It's like, oh no, this makes sense. One of the Emperor's sons, his most perfect design, saying no, he's not a god, and yes, you can improve things. That's always made sense to me.
You know what? That's a very good point. I think, like, I'm not a fan still. You didn't win me over, but I'll give you that point.
Oh, I'm not. I know I'm not gonna, but.
Purge says, necessity is the mother of invention. This is Tree Flies says this is the Imperium that Malkador built. Yeah, so very interesting shift. But let's jump back to the Adeptus Mechanicus and the STCs and how they kind of interact. The Adeptus Mechanicus zealously hunts for STC's technology, believing STCs are divine relics of the machine god, and they are willing to go to extreme lengths to obtain any fragment. Tech priests dream of finding a complete STC, which they believe would enable them to create miraculous new technologies or restore lost knowledge of the humanity's golden era. Explorer fleets dedicated to this mission travel to the galaxy's farthest reaches, often facing deadly Xenos, warp threats, and ancient traps on desolate planets. Yeah, like if they did just find one STC that was fully complete, like that would be a game changer for the galaxy, because then you just tell that one, make me another one. And now 2 planets have STCs, and then they start making a bunch, and you just start shipping STCs out everywhere. So yeah, like this is the holy grail of Imperial technology, of humanity's technology. If they found fully functioning one, that is the machine god manifest. All things are possible then.
And what a cool way to, like, I come from the event and campaign organization background with the game store and stuff. So like I've run and created multiple 40K campaigns, Sigmar campaigns. What a cool, simple way to go. This is the campaign setting. You're all hunting for an STC. Like, rumor is that there's been one found, that the Mechanicus has beaconed to it, and we're saying, hey, we're coming here, and everybody's fucking going to this one planet to try and find it or something. You know, I think that's a really cool, like, breadcrumb trail to kind of lead creatively with your own homebrew campaigns, or even just your own like tabletop game, and say, Logan, like, why are my Necrons fighting your Raven Guard? Well, you're here on this planet because you're here guarding the Mechanicus who are trying to recover this STC. And as Necrons, I'm like, get fucked. Technology's ours, baby.
Yeah.
Well, no. Hey, how about this flip? Why are my Raven Guard working with your Necron? It's because we used an STC to get you to ally with us to deal with the orcs that are attacking us.
All right, I'll allow it.
So there's a lot of fun thematic things you can do with an STC.
Yeah, and like you guys are saying, like, even Xenos want it. So some Xenos, especially those with a focus on technology, also seek STC relics. The Necron, the Tau, or other species see value in understanding and repurposing these human templates, either as curiosity or as a means to gain an edge against the Imperium. These STCs, like, if you found a fully developed one, like, they would just be truly the craziest thing that even like Eldar would probably want them. Even Necron would probably want such a device. Like, I know Necron have crazy technology where they can have AIs that run their planet or just whatever they can kind of think of. But this is a whole nother thing completely.
I know the Tau at one point had their own squad of Space Marines that I don't 100% remember how they got them, but they had Space Marines. They were Astartes, they had the armor, they had the build, they had everything, but they weren't mentally Space Marines because they didn't go through all the training and everything. So I'm thinking, like, if the Tau got a hold of an STC that could build Space Marines, they could build their own to train with, but then they could make themselves Space Marines. They could build better armor. They could build better mech suits that could help them defeat the Imperium.
Yeah. Purge says, that part confused me. Is that the STC, the 3D printer, or the thumb drive for it? Maybe both, and why would it only be partial? Yeah, so we kind of said that a little bit where, like, STCs, yes. A fully complete one in my mind would be, it's like the printer-esque thing that instead of using resin, it has nanobots that will literally make this thing. The AI is functioning fully. But eventually it kind of just gets this fragmented bit. So now all you are finding is that thumb drive. So you have this information, but you might not have the ability to actually fully make the thing. Like it won't have the ability to necessarily make the thing. You have the information on how you could make the thing now, but you would still then have to actually go make it yourself.
Could also be a part that has some of its manufacturing encoded into it. Like a robot arm in a manufacturing plant knows it goes like this to install the rivets on a door. So maybe you found that arm and it does this when it gets near a piece of metal. So you're like, okay, put more metal next to it. Oh, this makes a beautiful weld that we never knew we could do before. Now you have new reinforced armor because you found an arm that knows how to do its arm thing.
That's the machine god, baby.
Yeah, I guess it really could be either or. Yeah, you find this piece of machinery and you're like, I don't know what the fuck this does, and you flick it on and your planet explodes, or you get this nice weld. Like, it could be anything.
Yeah, if there's not like a picture on it, or like a high Gothic phrase, how would you kind of know? Like, and again, it's hard to picture what these things would be, but like, I'm gonna hit this button that says go, like,
and like it says go in a 15,000-year-old human dialect. So you're like, I think this says go.
Yeah.
Who the fuck knows? Yeah, STCs are truly one of the coolest things in 40K, like, and the most sought after relic of all of humanity. I can't wait for us personally to get to our level of STCs where AI can just print and make us everything we need. We can fly the stars together.
I know it's been said before on this podcast too, but like, there's that classic story of the two guardsmen finding the STC for like the new combat knife or rather not new, but the new to them, but the ancient combat knife that is like sharper and better. And they were awarded a planet each, each had like their own pleasure world or something for finding this thing. That I think is just such a cool little story that, again, talking about 40K as a setting, like just a little blurb. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you got to believe that the Adeptus Mechanicus, they got the combat blade, but like, what other secrets did they get out of that little STC fragment? Like, did they unlock a little bit of how to make it themselves? Like, make an STC and not make the combat blade, like any little bit, and maybe they collect 10 of these fragments and they can put them together, and now they have a fuller picture of how to make this happen again. So, and
what else it ties off to, like, okay, making a blade sharper, a better blade, like how does that affect a chainsword? Do we now kind of have an idea how to make chainswords a little bit better because of this new STC that was just for a combat knife? I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, you got your combat knife chainsword going around now. There's a bunch of combat blades.
Can the welding robot use the combat knife? We'll find out.
I will allow it. Yes. Yeah, the STC is cool. Do you guys have any other thoughts on the STC before we jump to the next relic?
There's just so many possibilities. I mean, you could go wild with it, and I would love to see what some of the patrons on Patreon, like, and the guys in the Discord, and anybody that's jumping on here, like, what do you use creatively with STCs in your campaigns? Like, what have you come up with? Has any in your canon lore of your army, have you guys found any? I would love to know.
Yeah. And maybe here's an interesting question too, to kind of think about, like, what are the limits of the STC? And by that, I mean, like, what limits are we placing on it? Because obviously we're not, if somebody's like, oh yeah, we're doing a campaign and we found a fully functioning STC, it's like, well, get fucked. Like, you kind of just broke the universe by doing that. So think of, like, what are those, like, limits of what can you actually get away with creating? Are you making a new battle tank or a new HAB unit, or what is that upper tier before you just broke the universe?
Yeah, don't be the guy that's like, well, I found the STC for the greatest lasgun ever, and it hits on a 1+ and has a minus 15 AP, like, okay, guy. Yeah,
okay, bud. It's fun doing those little creative challenges for sure, where you come up with something super cool, but also limit it somehow. So,
Speaking on limits, Purge Seraph in the chat just added a comment that I would gander the Adeptus Mechanicus has a wealth of technology being throttled by the rest of the Imperium, considering it heresy. I tend to agree with that, because, like, how we were talking about Belisarius' call and everything he'd been working on since the Horus Heresy, he couldn't because the Inquisition said no, but Gilliman came and said yes. So I'm sure there's a ton of things that they can or could do that they just aren't allowed to yet.
Yeah, or and, like, it doesn't even have to be this, like, malicious holding of technology. Like, the Mechanicum is just as religious as the Imperium, just towards a different god. So even for them, it's like, do we want to really share do we really want to share technology with people who are outside of our religion? Like, is that why we're throttling them?
I like that angle, that they're keeping it to themselves because they don't want the Imperium to take it or destroy it.
Knowledge is power.
I never thought of that before.
Guard it well.
Yep.
I like that.
Well, if we move forward, because STCs are just rad and we can chat about it all night, but we've got to keep cruising on this. So we're going to move to the Clarion Proclamatus. The Clarion Proclamatus is a elaborate Master Vox relic of the Astra Militarum, known for its almost supernatural ability to transmit messages directly into the minds of its intended audience across vast distances. Its transmissions are unnervingly precise and seem to bypass typical Vox channels, reaching only those meant to hear it, even in the chaotic noise of the battlefield. Holy shit. That's rad.
Yeah.
Like, right off the bat.
Woo! That's really cool.
Especially since, like, the Astra Militarum has this. Like, I feel like a lot of times, like the guard kind of get schlumped into this like, oh, they just have las guns, oh, they just have, you know, bolt pistols and they've got their flamers. Like to have this for the militarum is sick. And I
Yeah.
think it's well deserved.
Well, so hard fought for.
They've earned it.
Yeah. The other cool thing about it, though, like, because it's been mentioned in the lore a few times that the Imperial Navy, the Astra Militarum, and the Space Marines have trouble communicating because that happens all the time. But if an Astra Militarum regiment had this and there's a Space Marine passing by, a cruiser, they can get help immediately because they can just get with that. So having to go through whatever channels they normally would, and they never get to the Space Marines. So that can solve a lot of battlefield logistics issues.
Yeah. And it's got some unique properties and theories. So the Clarion Proclamatus has a seamless, enigmatic casing, leading to speculation that it may contain the bound essence of an astropath, a sanctioned psyker who could enable psychic communication. This would explain its ability to bypass traditional Vox mechanisms and create a mental link, like a neuralink, like we were saying in the chat here, with the intended recipients of its messages. The Astra Militarum, however, has continually resisted handing this relic over for cryptomechanical analysis, with such requests mysteriously vanishing into bureaucratic oblivion. Oh, that's just so rad. That's so cool.
Yeah. The potential bound essence of an astropath inside this thing. Like, yeah, just literally bypassing comms channels, shooting messages directly into people's brain. You know, they're like, did I get that through my comm channel? Or did I just like, what am I hearing this from? Like, yeah, it's so intrusive. Let the intrusive thought win for once, please.
It felt kind of like a psyker ability to me when you first read it. I'm like, oh, I wonder how they make that technology work. And oh, there might be a soul trapped in a box. Okay, that fits.
Oh, just your classic soul trapped in a box situation.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It just tells what you tell it to do. It doesn't talk to you. It's just don't worry about it.
Man. Yeah, and so this was our first one too that I kind of did a little homework here. And is there representation on the table? So on most of these from now on, we're going to go through, did this really cool relic in 40K have some sort of representation on the table itself? Like, does it play in the game? And what I've found, so again, please forgive me in chat, get at me if I'm incorrect, but the last edition that this saw actual play was 9th edition. It replaces the Master Vox in a command squad, and it gave unlimited range for a squad officer. So this is a relic. The Clarion Proclamatus had table rules, which is really cool to see, like lore represented in a fun way. And we're going to go through some of these where you can kind of go, yeah, I guess that kind of worked. But I think here, there it is.
Yeah.
Unlimited range. That's cool.
Yeah, I think like it was 12 inches before or something.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It was a 12-inch bubble because I remember playing, because we had a lot of guard players in 9th edition. They would always struggle measuring to make sure they had their bubble right. But if they took that relic, that would have been bonkers and game saving for a couple of them. I'll tell you that right now.
Get your bubble right. Jeez.
Get your bubble right.
Yeah, 8th edition, 9th edition, it was all just creating these little bubbles where you stack as many +1s to everything as you possibly can, or just whatever you castle up, and then give everyone those benefits. Nero in the chat says, if you didn't know this tech existed, would you think you're going crazy hearing a voice inside your head? Like, I think this still does come through official, like, comm channel, like not official comm channels, but I think you still need like a communication device. It's not like he's actually shooting it into your mind necessarily. What do you guys kind of think about that?
So I also play Sisters of Battle a lot, and I'm going through the Celestine books right now, and one of the things that they're big on is hearing the Emperor's voice or believing in the Emperor. So I feel like if you heard it come through, I don't know what it sounds like, but maybe you'd think it's a vision from the Emperor saying, we need to go here, or these people need our help, let's go there, is kind of what I thought. If it's not a Vox thing, if it is in your head, that's kind of what I thought of.
But who's giving the order? Because I think, like, if you hear an unknown voice in your head and that is kind of weirdly saying, like, go west, shoot west, like, yeah, that, okay, sure. But if it is, one of your, I'm not gonna say like commissar necessarily, but somebody that's in a command position to give that order, and it's being received by somebody in, somebody commanding a unit or whatnot, I think it makes a little bit more sense knowing that it's not the voice of the Emperor and that it is direct orders from, from a superior officer. Like it says here, it seems to be known, it's transmitting and it bypasses typical Vox channels, but it's still going through some sort of channels itself. And I would feel like that maybe the Militarum knows about it, Yeah, so I think there's an official capacity. Again, it's not maybe widely known, but like upper command echelons would probably know that this is a thing and that it would happen. That, yeah, they're just using the Clarion Proclamatus. That's why I heard my commander's voice in my head, from this distance.
Yeah, you've actually talked me out of it. I don't think they do hear it in their head. I think it is in their comm thing, and then if in the books and everything, they always identify who it is before they say their message. So I think it is just over the radio. Still
Yep.
cool, but it requires a radio on the other end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, the next relic we have
is Cabe's Herald. I almost read that Kabe the first time I looked at it. But Cabe's Herald. All right, Cabe's Herald is a revered heirloom of Cadia, once belonging to the legendary Knight Commander Cabe, a celebrated officer known for his heroic actions during the Cadian Wars. The relic is an upgraded, high-grain Vox Herald, originally used by Cabe in his final battle, where he perished while engaging a renegade Warhound Titan in his Lehman Russ battle tank. That is cool. And that's also interesting that, yeah, it's also interesting that it's another relic that's communications related for the Astra Militarum, and it's required somebody to die. Like the first one has the soul in it. This one, Kane died, and now it works. So, continuing with that, its properties and effects. Ghostly Vox communication. Cabe's Herald continues to transmit his voice, that's cool, through the static of battle even after his death, offering orders and guidance to his successors. The voice of Knight Commander Cabe can still be heard issuing commands, providing strategic advice, boosting morale of Cadian forces on the battlefield. So that is not what like the last one. That is super cool. So it's kind of like his spirit. The other one had a spirit. His spirit's trapped in this thing, and it's providing guidance post mortem to other commanders. That's really cool.
That's rad.
His soul frequency somehow got tied to this Vox frequency when he died.
Yeah, that's crazy.
We're all just made of waves after all, or something. I don't fucking know.
It's kind of like there's that story of the Land Raider that after its crew had died, like it still kept going and was still on the mission of like shooting and following its own like orders and stuff. Like that's the
Rin's might, I think.
Yeah, like and I love that idea, and this definitely has that more spiritual Imperium vibe versus just like it's different kind of science, like like there is the psyker element in the previous one, but this seems to be a little more like woo,
Yeah, like this could be some type of just simple machine glitch, and that every order that you hear over the static could have been something that Cabe had said at one point and somehow got locked into the system, and now it's just kind of on repeat. And like sometimes it's telling you the right thing and the right orders. Other times it's just giving you random shit from battles, long ago that he was in.
Yeah, maybe the ones that don't apply, it's just him going, we need to push harder, push left, and then they're like, okay, they're pushing left. They don't know why they're pushing left, but they're like, we need to do it, and it rallies them to push left, and it happens to work out. So they're like, oh, this thing is a tactical genius.
Right.
It's yelling things randomly and it's working out for you.
AI PTSD. That's great. Yeah. That Jack's Carnage, spot on. And I love the idea of like the end of the battle or the end of the war, like, dude, you hear like Steve's group heard Cabe's voice. Oh yeah, cool. I heard Jim mention something about it too, and we didn't see his partner. Like, what happened? Like, well, Cabe told me to shoot when I had my gun up, and my partner was right in front of me, and I just had to do it. Like, but these are just like just random messages happening over and over, like flank the left, like you said. You're like, but there's all right, fuck it, we're going left, and there's just a ton of Tyranids left. You're like, shit.
The other thing I was thinking though is maybe it works kind of like how orc magic works. Orcs think red go faster. Well, he believes and he believed what he believed. So now that's trapped in the Vox somehow is his belief and believe in his men. That's now ingrained in the system. So it might not be the perpetual loop, but it's his love for his men and his perseverance gave him the way to live on in this Vox communicator for the will of the Emperor. I don't know.
Yeah, well, like they do talk about stronger souls can last longer in the warp, where like the weak and frail souls get devoured almost instantly. So yeah, it's like somehow maybe he has held on in death through his willpower, and now is like the only way he can communicate is through this like Vox channel.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that a ghost can give you the guidance is super cool. I'm curious now, though. Well, because it says people hear it through the static, but it's like it's one Vox thing. So is it the one person who's holding this Vox hears it, or is that Vox transmitting to other things?
Read on. Maybe it'll answer a little bit of it. We'll see.
Well, reading on it does say those who wield the Vox Herald can invoke his legacy, gaining a sense of direction and inspiration from the legendary officer, allowing them to carry his resolve and tactics as if Cabe himself were still guiding them. So now I think it's really funny your example of I had to shoot my buddy because the Vox said so.
Yeah.
They're just passing this puck around, and the puck is telling like it's a magic 8-ball. They're shaking like, what do I do? Go left. Okay. What do I do? Shoot Jim. Okay. And they're just going around doing whatever it says.
He hasn't been wrong before. He just told you to shoot Jim.
Jim's a traitor, dude. Done. We're done. It's fixed.
Done.
There's a lot of Jims. A lot of them are traitors. It happens. But it also did have rules like the last relic. One tank commander could take it. Only one allowed, and only one tank commander could take it. When the tank commander issues a tank order, you can choose any and all Lehman Russ squadrons that are within 12, and they are also affected by the order, which is also bonkers because tank spam was a problem, and if they all get the buffs, that's rough for the opponent.
Yeah, I don't know what edition that was. I'd found that, but it seems really cool and on theme again.
Oh, yeah. That's a super cool relic.
The next one we got is the Laurels of Command. The Laurels of Command is a controversial but highly effective relic of the Imperial Guard, designed to enforce obedience and ensure flawless coordination among troops. These finely crafted laurels, often worn by high-ranking officers, are more than just a symbol of authority. They are a tool of psychological manipulation. Properties and effects. Psychological control. Concealed within the artfully crafted design is a band of empathetic impulsion circuitry, allowing the wearer to exert limited control of the minds of those under their command. The wearer can issue subtle subliminal suggestions, bending the will of indoctrinated individuals to ensure they follow orders without question. Enhanced discipline. Under the influence of the laurels, even the most cowardly or hesitant soldiers are compelled to fight to the last, and their actions are carried out with perfect synchronization, as though guided by singular will.
That's super good. A lot of these relics are psyker related or psyker adjacent. That's just so cool. That giving a non-psyker kind of a psyker power is wild.
It seems to be communication is huge. I mean, these three have been Astra Militarum, and it's just, it seems like that it's so important to I mean, you're a horde army essentially. You're leading a bunch of dudes, you know, guys and gals that have been indoctrinated into this, like to be in the guard, and you have to make them do what you're telling them to do with your commands. And that's why commissars exist. You know, charge that hill or I will shoot you. So the idea that the really cool relics for the guard are motivational, kind of subjugational almost, and communication. So it's all just, we need to get the word out. You need to do this. I'm either going to tell you with this crazy Vox relic that's going to have unlimited range, you know, some ghost is going to speak through this channel, or I'm going to inspire you and have this empathic will upon you and kind of just force you to do this and bend you to my will. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, where like those are kind of the goal of these. Like that's kind of what these humans need to motivate themselves. Like how do you get hundreds of guys to keep going over that trench and get mowed down over and over after they just watch the last 100 guys go do it? Well, you need some type of almost like ethereal afterlife motivation, or some type of psychological control on top of the indoctrination, you know?
Yeah.
T Freeze says, how many of these relics do you think there are? Do you think they're pretty rare? I like to think that there's only one of each of these. Now, having said that, there could be thousands of each of them, just slightly different. You know, like Cabe's, I forget what that one was called.
Cabe's Herald.
Like that's clearly Cabe. That's a one-of-a-kind item, that one. But like how many times has a guardsman had this similar situation where they died and somehow created this psychic link from the afterlife to some type of piece of technology? You know, that's probably very common. I like to look at these as like what's possible, you know? So yeah, there's only one of these, but now that we know this is possible in the universe, now we can come up with a bunch of cool stuff for it.
Mm-hmm. And I think you said it earlier that you weren't going to focus on specific like power weapons, like, oh, this was so and so sword, so it's magically imbued. But if we think about relics like those, like Lightning Claws getting passed down from chapter master to chapter master, the Lion and Gilliman both have a piece of the Emperor's armament. Abaddon has Horus's claws. Like those things are also technically relics, but they're tied to one specific person, so they don't get talked about as much. Whereas these relics are very cool, lore, fluffy things versus the things that are key to the setting, like set pieces, kind of, if that makes sense. So I'm sure there's thousands of relics out there.
Yeah. Grimaldus says, were any of these relics found on Terra? More so of the relics we know of, kind of like Mars rover that was found allegedly. Yeah, it's hard to say where these were found. Some of them were made in distant parts of the galaxy. You know, when Cabe died, we'll go back to him as a good example because it actually has a named character attached to it. Like, we know that guy died to a Warlord Titan somewhere on a distant war zone, you know. But, you know, how many relics are in the vaults of Terra that we have no idea about that are galaxy changing, but the Emperor locked up because he didn't want this technology to get out, or the Mechanicus has on Mars because once again they don't want it to get out. It's too much.
Yeah,
for sure.
Or even Trazen's collection.
Ooh, yeah, there's one.
Not even people are safe from that dude. So all types of Cabe could be there for all we know.
And he's speaking from that prison to a Vox to still help fight the good fight. He just doesn't know he's trapped in a box. He's in his tank. He's in his tank in the box, communicating to his troops still.
So the laurels have some drawbacks and dangers. The unraveling of leadership. If the officer wearing the laurels is killed, the empathetic influence abruptly ceases, often leaving its subordinates in disarray. The shock of their commander's death can cause confusion and chaos as they lose the mental guidance they had been so subtly shaping their actions. This is very like hive mind-esque, eh?
Yeah, is that when they say chaos? Does it mean like actual chaos, or chaos in the battlefield type chaos?
Chaos in the battlefield, I think.
Because I was also thinking like it's because it is a psychic thing, so it rips, and when it rips and you lose it, now you're exposed to the warp energies. Maybe.
Yeah, I wonder if this one is a psychic thing. Like because this one I think is technology because it has the empathetic impulsion circuitry. So this seems to have some type of thing, and it only works on indoctrinated people as well. So like you know, and it only works probably if an officer is wearing it. It requires some of these things. It's not like the other ones where it's like an actual psyker using it. There's some technological elements here where maybe it's shooting out this perfect brainwave frequency that just makes you more agreeable, almost like a truth serum, but like uh, sine waves or whatever. You know, you could come up with any technologically weird way, but I think this one is definitely more technological than psychic.
Yeah, that I guess that makes more sense. I was just picturing it's psychic connected, but now you break it down more, it does sound more technology funded.
So if we go into the like just the imagery of what laurels are, and maybe this is I don't know, maybe I'm tinfoil hatting here, but
Tinfoil loyaling, actually,
yeah,
but carry on.
laurels are that leaf insignia, that we see. And chat, please get at me if I'm just way off base here, but I'm gonna get real tinfoil hatty real quick. Here we go. So if this is crafted as it says it is, and it's got the technology like you mentioned, Mark. So laurels are very I'm really hoping I'm spot on with this, like the Roman iconography of the laurels on your head, right? It's that leafy kind of thing that is worn as almost like a crown. Who do we know in 40K that wears that on his head?
Ooh, you think it's the emperors?
I mean, I'm looking at the picture of my boy Gilliman, and he's got laurels around his head. Ah,
The the emperor in his golden armor had those
he
a
had
lot
them
too.
too, and we know that the emperor was able to really, really like vibe empathically with people to the point where you saw him as he wanted you to see him. Tinfoil hatting here.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know, but it could be cool to think that like Gilliman has these laurels of command or whatever it is, and but it's a known thing too. Again, it's an Imperium known thing, so maybe it's like, but Robute, you're wearing the laurels of command, like,
I feel compelled to listen to you.
yeah, I don't know, I
Hmm.
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chat was pointing out that there are other Space Marines like Black Templar champions. They have laurels on their
Yep,
armor, and I remember Stern Guard and Vanguard veterans would also have laurels too.
Yeah.
just saying.
Let's do a quick Google search of how you, as a Space Marine, get laurels. It's a badge of honor that appears. Well, that just describes what it is. How do you get it? An Imperial laurel is a mark of skill, loyalty, and heroism, and may be awarded to a Space Marine who completed a great act of valor or performed some great deed that leads to the victory for the Imperium. Um, Also, chapter ancients, they need to have one of these laurels in order to be able to carry the banner. Like that's one of the requirements of
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
No, and when I'm saying they need one of these laurels, not specifically this relic that we're talking about, just like the wreath
Yeah,
insignia.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Now that I'm thinking about it, I think Rylanor in the artwork of him, he's got laurels on his sarcophagus.
yeah. Like it's a pretty common one. Like Space Marines are constantly doing feats of skill or heroicism, so I'd imagine it's pretty common.
Yeah,
But yeah. On tabletop, we don't know what edition this came from, so we'll just pretend it came from 11th edition. Officer model only. Once per battle, at the start of any phase in your opponent's turn, the bearer can issue one order it knows from the following list, as if it was your command phase. This cannot be an order that is already issued this battle round. So, and then it gives a bunch of orders: fix bayonets, take cover at all costs, show them steal or show them contempt, remain vigilant, shock and awe. So yeah, this kind of just like allows you to use battle orders out of phase, which is pretty cool.
yeah.
I think that had to have been ninth edition because that's when the command phase was introduced. Because if I remember, eighth it started with the movement phase,
Mm,
Interesting.
yeah.
didn't it? Because the command phase, I remember the command phase was brand new and exciting when it came out. It's a more recent addition to the rule set.
To be honest, I've never played a game of 9th or 10th, so I'm not sure. But yeah, I think you're right. Like 8th edition, it was definitely baked into the movement phase. It wasn't its own separate phase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if we cruise forward with some more Imperial Relics, we're going to touch on the Sororitas here. So we've got Light of Sister Gemretta. The Light of Sister Gemretta is a revered Imperial Relic and the only surviving card from an Emperor's Tarot deck once wielded by Saint Gemretta, a beloved member of the Adeptus Sororitas. Following her martyrdom, she was canonized as an Imperial Saint, and her Emperor's Tarot card was preserved as a powerful symbol of faith. Pretty rad already. And then we move into some properties and effects. So there's Mysterious Illumination. The light of Sister Gemretta is said to glow when the correct prayers are offered upon it. This phenomenon, though not fully understood, has become a defining characteristic of the relic, with its light shining in moments of great significance. So cool, so on the money as far as Adeptus Sororitas go. My one question is like, what are the correct prayers?
Well, you're going to have to pray them to find out.
Yeah, you got to find out. I wonder if it's situational though, or maybe they're praying for guidance. Like we were joking earlier, go left, go left. It's like, which way should I push into the enemy? Should I push to the right? And then it starts glowing because that's the right choice to make. Or we need divine guidance. How do we do this? Light the way, and then the card starts lighting, and it's pointing a certain direction with its light. It's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, like, maybe we need to talk about the tarot for a hot second. And typically when people do tarot in real life, or, since we're talking 40K, the Emperor's Tarot, you're typically trying to ask about your future, or ask about a certain decision, and then they draw cards, or you're asking about something specific. So yeah, I think you're tapping into something where, yeah, you draw this card and it's glowing, and you're like, okay, this is definitely the sign. This is the card. Because also with tarot, there's many different ways to do it. Sometimes you do a random card pull. Sometimes you do, 3 cards. Or, there's so many different ways. So that this just really helps you dial in how to kind of read the tarot. And in 40K, the Emperor's Tarot is a pack of 78 psychoactive liquid crystal wafers that are linked to the thoughts of the Emperor, which is pretty fucking wild.
That's super interesting.
I like the idea that like there's some sort of like Adeptus Sororitas or somebody like praying, and then like there's the preserved tarot card like up in the corner, like I'm just gonna do some weird like and then they just look over, nope, not glowing. Okay, let's try it again. Please, Emperor, guide me to the thing, and nope, damn it, still not glowing. Damn. Okay. And they just have this like on loop, like, okay, well, bring in Sister Agatha or Sister Susie so that she could pray now. It's her turn to see when this thing glows. And then, it said go take that place. Okay, we're going. It glowed. Go. Yeah.
I love it.
That's funny.
Yeah, so with Divine Favor, while the reason for the card's illumination remains unknown, it is widely believed that the light is a sign of the saint's blessing. The glowing card is thought to invoke a sense of divine favor, offering spiritual guidance and protection to those who carry it or seek its light. Okay, so it's a little less of like the magic 8-ball that I was kind of saying, but I love the idea that it's this it offers spiritual protection, the Emperor blesses, but it's also kind of pointing as a sign of the saint's blessing. Very cool. And this did have I found very minimal rules, or mention rather. Like, yes, there was rules for it in Warzone Nachmund, or at least a mention, and it was like a Rift War Crusade relic. So yeah.
So those are words, take them as you will.
Yeah, sure.
The Emperor's Tarot, let's just hop back to that real quick.
Sure.
Man, it's kind of cool to think like to have like a true Emperor's Tarot deck that is actually like linked to the Emperor himself. and how many fake ones there actually could be. And even on the or on the Lexicanum, they have different types of deck. They have Horus's deck, the Emperor's deck, the Great Eye, and the Despoiler deck. They also list, I don't know how many, but let's call her at least probably 50 card names, from the Blinding Seer to the Young Warrior to the Aquila, and pretty cool to look at. I've always wanted to try to make an Emperor's Tarot deck, and yeah, it seems like they have a whole fucking deck there with a couple little add-ons that you could include too, so pretty neat.
How big is a normal tarot deck?
Let's Google it.
Because I thought there were only like 13 or 15 cards normally.
No, it's
I
way
think
more
way
than
more
that.
than that. 78.
Is it?
78.
I'm way wrong.
Well, see, now here's the thing. You know, what if you only have 13 of that deck, and it's like building a Magic deck, and like, oh man, I need the Commanding Laurels of the Emperor. You got it? Like, I'll trade you for this one. Like, I got the foil version. I've got the foil version. It's Pringled as shit, but here, it's worth a lot. It's shiny.
That's awesome.
Yeah. What else you got for us, Logan?
I have the I'm going to say this wrong. The Omniscient Mask. That feels right. The Omniscient Mask. I want to call it an axe. The Omniscient Mask is a revered relic of the Adeptus Mechanicus, steeped in legend and mystery. The mask is believed to grant the wearer the ability to read the souls of men, peering into their deepest thoughts and emotions with unfathomable clarity. The properties and effects, according to legend, or soul reading, according to the legend, those who don the mask can see into the hearts and the minds of others, reading their intentions, fears, and desires. This ability makes a mask a powerful tool for both psychological warfare and spiritual insight. And the psychological influence, the very presence of the mask inspires fear and awe, as those who face the wearer are aware of its abilities to uncover their true nature. This fear often drives individuals to fight harder and strive for greater perfection, lest they be found wanting in the eyes of the Omnissiah, the machine god revered by the Adeptus Mechanicus.
Woo!
That is a spicy relic.
Crazy. Yeah, this one's weird for the Mechanicus to have in so many ways, because like typically they don't really care for warp stuff, and the concept of the soul for the Mechanicus is definitely like very strange and very foreign. But also at the same time, for them to now all of a sudden have this very unique ability where no one else probably has this ability to kind of, you know, read the vibe of somebody, read the soul of somebody, it would really help them quite a bit, since, you know, they can't really relate to humans in the same way as humans can, you know?
I'm kind of picturing like the higher ranking tech priests and the archmagoses using it to like see if a tech priest is worthy to become a magos, or to test other magoses to see if they've fallen to chaos or if they're part of the dark mechanicum, to see where their loyalties lie. Are they loyal to the Omnissiah, or are they loyal to Horus now? Because that was a big problem at the beginning of the heresy, with the Forge Worlds picking sides and going whichever way they felt got them what they wanted.
This thing's wild. Like, the more I read about it, it's just pure craziness, and I love it. It's it sounds terrifying, and especially when coming from like the Mechanicus standpoint, where like you look at anything Mechanicus and it's already scary and cool. Like, what does this thing look like? You know, to put it on a tech priest or something, you're looking at some half-faced biomechanic kind of thing, and you're already a little bit like, the fuck. And now it's gonna put on this mask. Like, what?
Yeah. And like you can almost feel this like cold chill go up your spine as you don't know what's happening, but it's reading your soul, you know?
And how?
Yikes. And how? Yeah. You know those people that are like, oh yeah, I can see the colors of people. Court there, your color's blue because you're lively and energetic, and Logan, yours is red because you like to hit people.
I'm gonna say it is certainly not blue. I'm red all the way. support
Okay,
Liverpool.
so
I think you,
sorry.
you got our
Yeah,
colors
we got our
flipped.
colors flipped. Liverpool Football Club, baby.
he was
Fuck.
he was close.
But yeah,
But yeah, I kind of picture it like
Mhm.
working like that for sure, where it's like almost this color reading ability. That's me reading into it, like for sure. But that's
and how often is this thing used? Like you were saying, Logan, like at what is the okay, get it off the shelf moment? Like if the
Yeah.
Imperium had this, I feel like this needs to be used so often, but also is probably really terrifying in that moment of like, let's just pass this around and see who's good and who's not. Like, dude, I feel like the Grey Knights with this
So
thing is just
it,
like having a field day, you know?
oh god, they're like, well, we gotta purge the galaxy.
yeah, it's funny you say that because I was thinking, oh, the Inquisition should use this, and then I'm like, the Inquisition doesn't want to use this because they are corrupt as can be. They don't want to be putting masks on and judging each other because it's like, oh, I'm the purest Inquisitor, and you're looking in the mirror at yourself, you're like, oh, and then someone else gets a hold of it and looks at you and it goes, no, you're heretical. And now the entire Imperium is infighting with itself. So it makes more sense to me the more I think about it why just the Mechanicus has it, because they're the only ones who are going to use it for probably research or testing purposes and not for hunting heretics, because that's not really the Mechanicus's
good point.
thing. Yeah. And then it did get tabletop rules, probably from 9th edition because it does have core in its rule. But while a friendly Scutari core unit is wholly within 6 inches of this model, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack, an unmodified roll of 6 scores an
Sustained
additional
hits.
hit. So not
Yeah.
really, not really fluffy for the tabletop. Like the relic is so much cooler than the rule they gave it on the tabletop. I feel that's a disservice to how interesting this relic is.
Yeah. How well then? How do you think a better rule would? What would a better rule look like?
I think a better rule, because this judges like the souls and the purity of people, either increase morale tests or kind of along the same insane bravery. Maybe you pass a morale test, but maybe if you want to make it more mechanically helpful, if it's being used by, we'll use 10th edition. If it's equipped to a leader who's attached to another unit, double their OC count. So now each one counts as one more model because you can tell they're pure and they're willing to hold this thing. Something along those lines, I think, would do it a better service than just exploding hits relic.
Yeah, it doesn't feel attacky to me. It feels more bolstering,
Yeah.
like reroll based, even, like
Ooh.
the morale test, or it talks about psychological warfare and spiritual insight. It's a powerful tool for this. Like spiritual insight, especially as like a tech priest or something like that, where you're doing some crazy roll and I need 5 ups for this normally. Like, okay, well, once per game I can use it as just an auto pass or something.
Yeah.
I thought of a more fun way because you said that. For the bear, increase leadership by 2, and then if you're within 12 inches of it, you lose 2 leadership.
Yeah, I was gonna say that that second
Mhm.
part, the minus leadership, for sure. It should be that dual purpose where you look at it and you're like, holy fuck, it just that shiver up your spine,
Yeah.
Or maybe another good rule would be some type of like the Sisters of Silence. They have like their nulls ability to kind of counter some psychic powers, and maybe that would be kind of a way to incorporate it some way, put a minus on psychic powers, or make the perils of the warp just a little bit more where you're reading your soul, and if somebody knows like your true soul, it almost is dangerous. So, but
In 9th, that would have been cool, but they got rid of psyker tests in peril of the warp in 10th.
Okay.
But yeah, those are total. It sucks. I missed the psychic phase so much, but those are gone now. But that would have been cool in the last edition if it did something like that.
Yeah.
I like what Jax Carnage says in his last comment. Imagine the Dark Angels got a hold of it. You're a heretic. No, you're a heretic. Wait, we're all heretics. Just also kind of like the idea of the classic movie Spies Like Us, like Doctor would be like, heretic. Yep. Right on.
That'd be super funny.
Cool. Jumping to the next relic, we got the Reliquary of Emmet. The Reliquary of Emmet is a sacred and highly venerated relic of the Blood Angels chapter, containing a single feather from their slain Primarch Sanguinius. This relic is of immense spiritual and historical significance, and its preservation is integral to the chapter's identity. The feathers of Sanguinius. The feather, which is about the length of a Space Marine's leg, fell from Sanguinius's wing during the Siege of Terra at the close of the Horus Heresy. As the Primarch defended the Imperial Palace, shortly after Sanguinius's death in battle, the feather was placed in a stasis field, which has remained active ever since, preserving it in a state of perfect suspension.
Yeah, now we're getting into the Horus Heresy stuff, which is really cool to see that like age kind of glorified in relics. And just can you imagine Sanguinius flying over, having, you know, the Siege of Terra happening, and this has just seemingly fallen from him or whatever it was, you know, clipped his wing or something like that, and this thing's on the ground. Like, I don't know. I just love imagining that this slow motion vibe, weirdly, almost like the intro of Forrest Gump with the white feather, you know,
Yeah.
or whatever it is, and this just lands. But it's fucking huge. It's the size of a Space Marine's leg.
I
And
oddly picture it heavy too, even though like it's a feather. Like it's got weight to it. You pick it up and like the quill of it is like, holy fuck. Could be a weapon in and of itself.
Yeah, and in that
Concrete when it
moment,
landed.
too, like as it's drifting down and falling, like, is there just silence for a moment? Is there just this like reverence of like, oh my gosh, and knowing that this was going to be something very important because of who it came from?
Yeah. The reliquary's creation. The ornate golden brass cylinder that houses the feather was crafted by Amet, the founder of the Flesh Terrors chapter, as a penance for the death of Sanguinius. The reliquary is decorated with the intricate fretwork depicting beasts and angels locked in deadly chase through an alien forest. This sorrowful depiction embodies Amet's grief over the loss of his Primarch. The reliquary also has a force field for protection, which is activated by the Blood Angel's Crux Terminatus badge, unlocking a hidden lock stud. Significance. Immeasurable value. The feather contains drops of Sanguinius's blood alongside the death mask and a blood ruby of the Primarch. It is one of the few relics that has not been tainted or consumed by the Blood Angel. Or consumed. That's so funny. Always drinking their Sanguinius's blood and shit. This makes it an extraordinarily precious and revered relic. Symbol of unbroken legacy. According to Blood Angel tradition, as long as the feather remains within the reliquary's stasis field, the chapter will never fail. It is considered a direct link to the Primarch's enduring presence and power. Location and display. The reliquary is typically housed in the Basilica Sanguinarium. Yeah, I could use some High Gothic reading lessons for sure.
Sanguinarium.
Within the Arx Angelicum, the fortress monastery of the Blood Angels. It is kept under a black silken cloth, which is said to have the smoothness like water, emphasizing the reverence which it is treated. Yeah, what a wild relic, like this one of a kind feather. You ever wonder what happened to Sanguinius's body? Like, I guess it. Like, Rogaldorn took the Emperor's body, but did he just leave Sanguinius's there? And then at that point, it just gets defiled and stuff?
Chat, what do you got?
I was going to say I'm newer to Blood Angels lore because, you know, clearly. But so I know they have a new Sanguiner model, Strung Up by Demons. I love that. A new Sanguiner model came out, and a lot of people think that might be Sanguinius himself, maybe in a less powerful form.
Yeah, those people can get
I understand
fucked. Because as we know, he died, and anytime a setting brings back a character from the death, you just broke the setting. So let's throw that one out there.
And I love that the relic itself, like, we're talking about the feather, which is cool, but the relic itself is what the feather is encased in. And the importance, the reverence that Amit had when crafting this. Like, yes, it's important that this that the feather is preserved from Sanguinius. It's amazing, but it can only be preserved in this manner, and that the encasing itself is all not necessarily equal, but still up there with in the balance of importance of this feather that Sanguinius had. Like the case itself is what we're discussing, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like
It's also I was gonna say, it's also interesting that this is the first relic we've talked about that doesn't have any actual practical application. It's just like it serves a religious purpose for the Blood Angels, but there's no tactical battlefield advantage for it. It's just a thing they have to push them forward.
Yeah. T. Fleas says he was recovered, at least his corpse was. Jack says Demon ripped him up and strung him up in an attempt to emotionally damage the Emperor. Too bad the Emperor did not give a shit. His tool got broken. That's right. I heard that he didn't flay him too. This didn't flay him too. So we're getting some mixed views from the chat. Some say he was covered. Others saying that he was vandalized.
What about the golden sarcophagus? They talk about it on Baal and how that's supposed to have Sanguinius's body inside it. I don't know. Again, another see, Jack's Carnage, I think you're on that too, where you're talking about it. He was recovered and returned to Baal, and that's what the golden sarcophagus is it houses the dead body of Sanguinius after defilement. There we go.
Yeah. I just pulled it up on the good old Lexicon, and I'll post that in the chat for all the naysayers. So yeah, definitely that they did find it and find his body and take it. But it is interesting. Like you wouldn't want to so there's a bunch of feathers then. Like Blood Angels have access to all the feathers, but like there's a difference. They don't want to go pick that feather off him. So it really makes you wonder like how many feathers fell off of Sanguinius in his lifetime. Like maybe only one ever did.
Yeah. And I think that brings the significance of this relic even higher. Yeah. And I think maybe that's why we're talking about the encasing itself, the reliquary itself is equally almost equally important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Isn't Sanguinius's soul trapped on Abaddon's ship? Or did I hear that wrong?
I don't know, man. Yeah.
I like that idea.
I live in a little bubble where I like to think he was completely and utterly destroyed, and once you die, you're dead, and then you get devoured by the warp. But I'm pretty grimdark when it comes to death.
Yeah,
he's free. Like he was able to save Dante.
Yeah, like New Lore, I think really fucking sucks with Sanguinius, man. I think the more they talk about him in common 40k stuff where he does this or does that, it's just like you're taking away the whole point of death, man. Like he's supposed to be this Jesus-like figure who sacrificed himself, who created a rend in Horus's armor so the Emperor is able to carry the day. Like if he's still around and kicking and his essence still remain and at some point he could come back, like come on, what are we doing here? GW, get it together. Like I dare you, GW, ask chatbot if that's a good writing technique, and you're not gonna like your answer. It's gonna give you more flack than I will, and many more words.
Well, surely this saw some tabletop rules, right?
Surely,
dun, dun, dun.
With Blood Angels being a huge faction and whatnot. But no.
Nope.
What would it even do? Because it's not, like we said, it doesn't have any practical application. So what could it do other than like improve morale or something? If it did have rules.
Yeah, you could make it have one extra people have one extra attack. Like you get frenzied. Like there's a lot of those kind of. It could really do a whole bunch of random stuff. Like everyone moves faster because they feel the winds of Sanguinius behind them. Like you could come up with anything.
Yeah,
I like that. Jump pack models get an extra 2 inches. I'm sold. Let's make it a relic.
Make it happen.
Make it happen.
Cool. Well, moving through, we're going to get some weapons here. So we've got the Blade of Admonition. The Blade of Admonition is a sacred relic of the Adeptus Sororitas carried by the legendary Saint Alicia Dominica. This blessed power sword holds great significance both as a weapon and as a symbol of the Emperor's divine will. The history and significance. Saint Alicia Dominica's role. So the Blade of Admonition was used by Alicia Dominica during her lifetime to slay heretics, as of course she would, and false prophets, most notably delivering the fatal blow to, and I love this, delivering the fatal blow to Goj Vandire, a heretic who sought to corrupt the Imperium. Over the following decades, it was wielded to cleanse countless enemies of the Emperor, cutting down those who sought to undermine the faith. So if we just touch upon that a little bit, there is a big significance here with Alicia Dominica or Dominica, however you want to pronounce it. But this is allegedly the blade that was used to kill or behead, in some stories, Goj Vandire, who plays such a pivotal role in the Adeptus Sororitas. Logan, you're a Sisters player. Do you want to jump in a little bit on like the Goj Vandire history?
I'm gonna keep it real. I do not know that lore.
Oh, really?
Don't worry.
I don't know that lore.
Marquino, the lore master's got you. Yeah. So during the Age of Apostasy, like M36, Goj Vandire started his own little rebellion, and planet by planet, he slowly started preaching that, maybe he was the god, maybe the Emperor wasn't the god, and boom, 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 boom. Slowly, planets started to join him. He eventually came across one planet that had a bunch of warrior women on it, and in order to trick them into joining him, he convinced one of them to shoot a lasgun at him, and they did. And he's like, if I survive, then I clearly am favored by the Emperor, and you have to follow me. Little did they know he had a force field. So he survives, and then they swear the loyalty to him. They go on a crazy crusade, start taking over the galaxy. And it's kind of this way that Goj Vandire was part of the ecclesiarchy, so he wasn't allowed to have an army. So he kind of just created this, like, if I have a bunch of females, it's this weird workaround where men under arms no longer are, I can't have them. So I've created a bunch of warrior women. They wise up to him as, the chaos reveals himself, and the Sisters of Battle turn against him. And Alicia Dominique actually, killed Goj Vandire on Terra itself, I believe, when he tries to go talk to the Emperor or something like that. I forget exactly how he ended up on Terra, but
one of the cool things was so they were unfortunately so indoctrinated with his like methods and ways of like, yes, I am right. Yes, I am right. And I believe, if I'm correct, a member of the Custodes talked to Alicia Dominica and said, look, I'm going to prove to you that he is a heretic. And I think like he sneaked his way into their encampment or their room or something and told her, and then brought her to the Emperor's chambers or something. I might be getting this horribly wrong, but the way that it was talked about was that she left that chamber, did not say a word, went straight into Goj Vandire's like sacred room or whatever, and then cut his head off. That's so badass. I love that. Like, it's just so cool that she was so like enlightened. Like, oh my gosh, no questions asked. Hacked. Boom. And there he goes.
And then that ended the whole rebellion, and then created this whole kind of military branch for the ecclesiarchy. But very cool kind of story, and this is her blade. Yeah.
And she's so important too here. I mean, obviously she had martyrdom. So it talks about martyrdom and recovery. After Alicia Dominica's martyrdom, the silver blade was recovered and polished to a mirror-like sheen. Its purity and the strength of its wielder's faith left a lasting impression, transforming the weapon into a holy relic in the eyes of the Adeptus Sororitas and the Imperium. Of course it did. Like, that's such a pivotal relic already based on their history and what she had done with it. And just a little bit of background on her herself. Excuse me. So she led her sisters for several centuries, overseeing the early years of the Adeptus Sororitas and leading her sisters on many crusades, as we mentioned before. But her death, so she finally fell in battle at the Scourging of Friedzwide's World. Now, this is from Lexicanum, and it was recorded that she survived literally hundreds of wounds before one lasgun blast finally found a weakness in her armor and pierced her heart. So beautifully cinematic. And if you look into, as I did, because I saw this Scourging of Friedzwide's World, I was like, this sounds like a weird, like, hometown buffet. So yeah, Friedzwide was actually in our actual history was a princess and abbess and is the saint of Oxford. There are many stories about her and healing ways, and it's very much a pivotal thing in Oxford and the Catholic Church. And there's like I don't know if it's a sanctuary or there's a specific relic and pedestal that is tied to her as well. So
Cool.
the idea that Dominica died during the battle at the scourging of Friedzwide's World just ties in that really cool aesthetic of Adeptus Sororitas, Catholic Church, the aesthetic vibe. Boom, 1 in 1. Very cool.
If you want to learn more about kind of that vibe, episode 22, the Ecclesiarchy, we talked a whole bunch about, and you'll get a little more of that kind of, that's such a pivotal part of 40K, this Roman Catholic knockoff of the Ecclesiarchy. And so cool.
Yeah. So it's got some powers and effects. It has a mirror of the soul. So the Blade of Admonition has a unique and unsettling property. Those who look upon its surface can see the reflection in their own soul, a little bit like the mask we talked about earlier. This creates an intense psychological effect, especially on the wicked or corrupt, causing them to avert their gaze in fear of confronting them true selves. Oh, so powerful. This power alone is enough to inspire terror in those who would face the blade in battle. Very cool. Kind of like that mask we discussed previously, but in like weaponized form.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking like you could walk in the battlefield and just flip it sideways so that the blade is showing out. Psychologically damage everybody that can see its sheen.
Oh, my soul's so ugly.
Yeah.
Guess.
Yeah. Just I need to call my mother. Runs off the battlefield.
And this had a really good representation in 9th edition. It was a crusade relic that was used, and so it was a melee weapon. And it had abilities that each time an attack is made with this weapon against a character unit, that attack automatically hits the target. So now in like 10th edition rules, it's precision. Basically has precision, which I think I would say flavor-wise is cool. Like, yes, it's targeting character stuff, but again, I think there's a little bit more here that could be minimizing, because it points out the flaws in others. So it's cool to see that it could kill character units. Again, the Goj Van Dyer tie-in here, like hacked your head off. Very cool. But it should, I feel like, also have some sort of debuffing characteristic too.
Like, I'm actually going to kind of disagree with you on that, because in 9th edition, characters weren't attached to units. 9th edition still had Lookout Sir. So when you got to a character unit, and sisters units, melee usually had 5 attacks. So this is automatically 5 hits on a character, kind of looking into their soul, like you can't escape this hit that's coming.
Ooh,
and then it's stat line strength +3, so it's a strength 6 hit, not that great, but most characters are 4 or 5. AP 3, which pushes almost everything to 6 or their invul, and then 3 damage. You only need 2 of those to fail to kill something. This is an insane sword, especially for Crusade, which had the best relics, and I wish more made it into regular 40K. But that is I think that is a very fitting use of this relic, personally.
If I was to add one little rule to it, I would make it, if you charge her, you have to take a leadership test. You don't get a charge her.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
That would be super cool. like a
Mark,
defensive
that's spot on.
ability with it.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Oh no,
Dig it.
I can't hit a woman, and you start contemplating everything.
I can't hit a woman. Oh, that's so good. He has to go call his mother now. Ooh, good stuff, guys. All right. Next relic we have are the tablets of Drusian wisdom. That's how I'm saying that. The tablets of Drusian wisdom are a revered holy relic of the lots of tricky words Calixian Ministorum, housed within Sanctilicta's Cathedral of Illumination. These sacred artifacts are symbols of Saint Drusius's endurance and wisdom, and the Emperor's divine guidance. So this is a multiple part relic. So the tablets, this relic consists of 8 palm-sized stone tablets, each inscribed with inspirational quotes attributed to Saint Drusus, a saint known for his piety, leadership, and spiritual insight. The tablets are carefully inscribed with words of wisdom that offer guidance, faith, and strength to those who study them. They have mystical properties they're impervious to damage, so they're completely impervious to any form of damage, a testament to their divine protection. No matter the trials they face, these tablets remain pristine and intact, further cementing their sacred and immutable nature in the eyes of the faithful. Their resistance to harm is seen as a sign of the Emperor's favor and protection. That is a really cool relic.
I want to know, how do they know that it's impervious to harm and damage? Like, did someone like the I don't know, like the intern have them and drop them like fuck, and then they didn't break?
Yeah, he's like, oh,
Maybe
thank God.
Okay.
I mean, the Emperor. Yeah.
Maybe there was a fire, so like that fire that lit in a house and burned everything but a Bible. Maybe it's the kind of same thing, like a cathedral burned to the ground or was bombed by something, and everything was gone except for these relics. They stayed true the whole time.
And now at this point, we have 2 examples of it's not getting like damaged. So now they're like, okay, well, let's put it to test. Spaceman walks in with Thunderhammer. Boom! Still, it's impervious. And that's what I really liked about this relic. It was kind of a little bit like, oh yeah, you can get wisdom and insight and whatever. But this literal impervious nature, like, pretty wild. Like, how? The Emperor protects? It's just one of those things.
And you call upon imagery of like Lord of the Rings, Mark, with that like the Thunderhammer, and like doing the idea of like Gimli, like, well, what are we waiting for? And then goes and swings the axe down on the one ring, and nothing happens. And again, we're double nerding here.
Triple nerding, even.
Triple nerding.
Yes.
We'll get a Star Wars reference in and complete everything.
I want to be the first one to reference them all. I did it.
We'll get there. I was kind of thinking, and this is because it doesn't have any tabletop rules, because duh. But I was thinking the impervious thing, and with the size, they're the size of palms. I was kind of thinking, since the Ministorum has them, like a sister can wear a tunic and then put all of them in front of the tunic and give her like a special invul save or something, since they're indestructible. So if they're in your robes, you're not going to get hurt. Yeah. That'd be an interesting way to utilize them. And, the guidance, of course, is helpful, but that's really funny to picture. You've got a bunch of pockets with these indestructible stones in them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. The next relic we got is the Mantle of Orphelia. The Mantle of Orphelia is a revered ecclesiarchy relic, once a prestigious badge of office for the prioress of the Covenant Sanctorum. It is most notably associated with the living Saint Helena, the virtuous, a saint known for her unwavering faith and acts of piety. It's used as a badge of office. The Mantle of Orphelia served as a badge of office for the prioress of Covenant Sanctorum, one of the most prestigious positions in the ecclesiarchy. As such, the mantle signifies authority and spiritual leadership within the Adeptus Sororitas. And what makes it so special is its sacred powers of protection and blessing. The mantle is believed to have sacred powers of protection, which are granted through Helena's actions. According to legend, Helena the Virtuous anointed the mantle with the Emperor's tears, a symbolic act that is said to have imbued the garment with divine energy. These tears, thought to have been shed by the emperor himself, are believed to carry immense spiritual power, protecting the wearer from harm and reinforcing their connection to the emperor's will. This is very interesting, like how she got the emperor's tears in the first place. Another funny kind of emperor byproduct that we have are psy grenades and stuff, where they take some type of the emperor's waste. I don't know. I like to think it's like sweat, but they turn it into psycho grenades where they put it in, and then it will basically act as an anti-psyker type device. So as we were kind of saying earlier this episode, M36 is when the Sisters of Battle were kind of founded, and the ecclesiarchy existed before that, sure, but yeah, like how did they get the tears and make this crazy robe,
That's the funny thing, and like we can just continue to imagine just having this like little vial or something, and just like, okay, he's watching Love Actually now. Okay, yep, this is the part where he cries all the time. Now go up there and put it right under his eye. Get the tear. Okay, yep, Emperor just cried. We got it. And how powerful that could be too, like we talk about. It's from the Emperor himself, and we know that there's little bits of the Emperor, like you talked about, Mark, like making its way into other forms of warfare, weapons and things like that. I love I don't know, it's almost sorrowful, almost like a melancholic relic where it's the Emperor's tears, like I think that's really cool versus it's part of his bones or some like a shaving of his bone because he's on the thing, and now that that bullet casing is way more powerful. It seems very mournful, and I just like that idea. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Call me edgy. I don't know what. It's cool.
I just like to put tears on me.
Put tears on me. I like that because it's kind of like it's comes from his grief. Because I doubt the Emperor was crying for joy at any given point. So this could have been from when he cried over Sanguinius. This could be for Horus's betrayal. There's dozens of reasons he could have actually been crying and hurt from it. But it's just so different from our other relics, and it kind of fits in with the grimdark aspect because this is kind of the one that's like it's not war tied, but it's still sad because it's the grief of whatever caused him to have to do that.
Yeah, you got like this all-powerful being who is 40,000 years old potentially, and like something made him cry.
And according to Fuzz in the chat, which I love, is wax the Emperor's legs every time you need a tear.
Like, goddamn.
Yeah, and what is
that? Is heresy.
That's heresy. Yeah. What is it that makes the Emperor cry? Like, just mentioning Sanguinius, like the memory. What is it? I think that's cool to kind of delve into that little bit as well.
They bring that reliquary out like every time they need more tears. They bring it out and just cart it in front of them a few times.
Start cutting some onions. Yeah. Just chopping some onions.
Oh man. And on tabletop in 10th edition, it did have something, an enhancement. Canonist or Palatine model only could use it, and each time an attack is allocated to the bearer, change the damage characteristic of the attack to 1. Yeah, okay, that one makes sense. Every time they're attacked, if they get attacked by damage 3, it's only damage 1. That's pretty cool, probably very useful.
I actually, in the slow grow that Court ran this year, I used Sisters, and this was one of the relics that I took, or enhancements now. One of the enhancements that I took, because a lot of them are only 3 wounds or 4 wounds. Like, they are very squishy models. So when someone dumpsters me with a last cannon immediately, it's really heartbreaking. And that relic saying, no, it's just 1 damage was just... Well, I felt the guidance of the Emperor and his protection on that one model when it happened.
Yeah, and then you got to drink the salty tears of your opponent, so it's like double the tears.
Oh, every time. I played a good friend of mine on the first day, and we were joking like there was a Twitch chat with us. So we were just getting real hype, like, chat, is this real? Chat, on a 5-up, I get to do this. So we're just having fun going nuts. A lot of other tables had new players, and they were kind of struggling, so it was really quiet, but we were just loud and having a lot of fun. And for the last day, the same guy, he's like, hey, I want to bring a Warhound Titan. And I was like, that sounds something funny could happen. So he set us up so we could play again. And I had made the lore of my sisters that we did something that the Imperium didn't like, so we're trying to reclaim our honor. And then at the end, when he brought that Titan, I said, all right, the real reason is we haven't paid our taxes. And we don't care who the Inquisition sends. I'm not paying my taxes. So we had this really big game with this huge Warhound Titan, and it exploded and killed half my army. It was so much fun and just a glorious cinematic end to a wonderful campaign.
Yeah, and the best part about that is you still didn't have to pay your taxes because everyone
No,
was
yeah,
dead.
no. I won the game, so I definitely didn't pay my taxes.
I live down in Panama. I fled the fucking communist shithole of Canada, and I don't pay tax on foreign income down in Panama. So it's like,
Based.
hell, fucking based, man. Although I do pay what's called the Panama tax, which is basically any Spanish person comes to me and asks me for money, so you give them a couple bucks.
That wasn't that bad. That's
No,
charity.
it's fucking yeah, it's fucking perfect. I'd rather it go to actual people than to the fucking government. So I love paying my Panama tax. Go take some people out for some pollo frito, some fried chicken. Fuck yeah, Panama tax is perfect that way.
Oh yeah, and you could potentially meet some really cool folks just by doing that.
Yeah, I've met quite a few random people for sure doing it that way. I've met more people just trying to hunt down weed, but then yeah, you start to get to know people that way for sure. It's a good time. Um, All right, well, let's jump into that was all the Imperial relics that I kind of chose to go through. So now we're going to jump into chaos artifacts, and these have a very different vibe as we were talking about in the beginning. You know, the Imperial one, it's like here's some benefits for you, and then for the chaos artifacts, it's like here's some benefits for you, and you're fucked.
Yeah. Well, and now you don't have to die to make a relic. Now the relic kills you. We're in the relic kills you part of the episode.
Perfect, perfect, perfect.
Blood Tide. Here we go. Cool. Hope I'm doing my buddy Tyler right. He's a big chaos player. So here we go. Blood Tide. Blood Tide is a relic from the dark age of technology, originally created as a weapon of mass destruction by nanotech robots. These robots, which once held a spark of will, eventually merged into a single consciousness during their long slumber. When activated, the blood tide could infiltrate its victims' bloodstreams, causing their blood to rupture and spill violently, effectively drowning entire worlds in blood. Cue the Slayer music. Oh man, that's so rad. So rad. The blood tide was eventually defeated and sealed away beneath the earth, becoming a mere legend. However, Demon Prince Kernax Voldarius later discovered it and bound the weapon to his will through the blood tide, though the blood tide resisted this servitude due to its nature. Despite the blood tide's unwillingness, it was unable to end its existence as creation prevented it from doing so. When manifested, the blood tide takes the form of a silver humanoid figure with a luminous fluid body. It has a disturbingly serene expression and deep blood red eyes, which hint at its intelligence. Oh, this is so sick. I'm not even a chaos player, and I'm like drooling internally about this. This form is immune to most forms of weaponry, and its features do not align with gender or age. The blood tide's power remains terrifying and destructive, capable of wiping out entire populations. Holy shit, man. Like we went through, yeah, Imperium, this is cool, inspiring. Like we're telling you what to do. You're gonna hear me from way over here. It's Ghost Fox, it's this. This thing's like, fuck everything. We're going to kill it all.
Drown the planet in blood.
Looks so rad. Just way cool.
How big do you think it is? Because when it said human silver or silver humanoid figure with fluid body, I was like, oh, it's a T1000. But can a T1000 destroy everything?
Ooh,
I broke cord apparently. But
that's your
like
tinfoil hat.
maybe is it like 5-story one, or is it just it'd be even actually no? I want it to be just a 6-foot dude, a 6-foot silver dude, just running around killing everything, going in and out of Space Marine armor as a liquid, going through it, shredding them, popping out on the other side. I like that better now.
Yeah, this could be a wild like man of iron type thing or a man of silver in this case instead of Man of Iron or Man of Gold, a Man of Silver, these crazy AI constructs that like brought the whole humanity and galaxy almost to its fucking destruction. Because look how dangerous it is. Like,
Oh yeah. Like it talks about wiping out entire populations. Like this thing is terrifying. And I like that there was a demon prince that found it, which seems totally on brand with chaos, which is cool. And he tried to bend it to its will, but the blood tide resisted. Like
yeah.
it itself cannot be bound to chaos solely.
So I'm thinking more now that it wiped entire populations. What if it doesn't have to stay solid for when it's attacking things? What if it just like starts spreading its arms out and it forms a bunch of little needles, and then just all the needles shoot out and go different directions and just go through everything and kill it quickly?
That's kind of how I'm picturing it too, is like the idea, kind of the T-1000 thing, or it just like it's nano robot technology. So it just spreads out and forms whatever it needs to and just shoots and kills everything.
You ever see the movie Big Hero 6?
Yeah.
Yes,
that's what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Oh.
Yeah, they have those like interconnected robots that the kid makes or whatever. Yeah, very cool. Very much like
that's
that.
It. And this has some ties too with the Grey Knights slaughtering the Sisters of Battle and doing that blood coating thing on their armor, which is a very contentious point of Warhammer lore. But just reading into it, and you guys in chat might jump on this too, is the blood tide was intermixed in this story with the Grey Knights slaughtering all of the sisters in order to boost up their kind of juice, their juju. I don't know. Mark, you got this?
Yeah, like for some reason, I guess if you kill Sisters of Battle and wipe their blood on your armor, you become even more protected. Like, I don't know, man. That was, yeah, like you said, it's a very contentious point. And I think they actually have done away with that and have retconned that out of existence.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but you know, there's so much 40k lore, and like you read something on Reddit, and then what are you supposed to do? Go buy the 4 books to try to hunt down if what they actually said was true. So that's fucking hard to say. But
yeah,
unfortunately, I don't know more.
I remember when I got into the lore, there were so many things that I was told that were just flat out wrong. But it's that thing someone told someone, and they didn't know which Black Library book to go read to confirm or deny it. So it was just fact for that group. And then I'd be listening to something, I'm like, that's not even close to right. What is going on? So it's just,
yeah, I heard that who is Sigmar is a Primarch. I heard it somewhere. You know, I love that theory.
my brother was like, no. Sigmar's the Emperor. I'm like, no, he's not. He goes, yeah, no, Sigmar's the Emperor.
No,
I'm like,
no,
you're wrong.
No.
I promise you. And he goes, no, I'm not wrong. And he goes and looks. He goes, I can't find it. I'm like, because you're wrong. It's not a thing.
Because you're fucking wrong. Yeah, one of my most contentious fucking things ever of these kind of rumor mill creation mills was they talked about in the chat earlier, and it's TTS, text to speech. While it is pretty funny and can make you laugh, nothing in there is real. That's all bullshit. But people take all the information in there like it's some type of Bible. And it's like so much misinformation has been spread just through TTS that I've had to like, that didn't happen, homie. But like I said, pretty funny, make you laugh.
If I haven't read it or listened to it in an audiobook, I don't believe it's real. It's all fake to me.
I take it one step further. If I haven't read in the Codex, I don't believe it's real. It has to be Codex or main.
I don't even believe Codexes because they keep changing how Ravengard paints their stuff, so I can't trust them anymore.
It's hard to know where to draw the line on canon. Like
where's the line?
I'm scrolling back here. Here we go. Like, boom. That's old school Necrons right here.
That's before Egyptian Necron.
Yeah, this is when they had the pariahs and all that, and like there's a lot of changes in there too. And I think that's what's kind of cool about like the magic of Lorehammer here. Truly is the in-depth discussion of like, there is canon, there's hard canon, but there's also a little bit of bendy room of like, I I don't think canonically that Sigmar is one of the lost Primarchs or something, but I secretly like to think that a little bit. Like, I think that's a cool little tie, and yeah, I don't know.
Do you feel dirty saying that, or like do you feel good about yourself, or?
Yeah, I feel a little like, look, I'm gonna just keep that part lore just locked in my mind and my heart a little bit. But Jack's Carnage brings up a point. There are correlations between 40K and fantasy, and I think there's some cool ones there that we kind of just touched on.
I'm gonna go a step further with you. If Sigmar is one of the two lost Primarchs, is the Skaven god the other lost Primarch? Just fall into chaos.
That's funny.
Then see, now we get into AOS 4.0 and this and that. I don't know.
Oh,
But
me and the podcast Grimlore, we're working on a episode where we're gonna try to dissect just the similarities between 40K warp and AOS/fantasy warp. Because lots of people, they come into this hobby and they think, oh yeah, they're connected. One's a past version of 40K, but they are separate, even though they have a bunch of similarities. So yeah, you guys can look forward to that kind of an episode coming out eventually. But
might be fun to do a weird theories episode too. Just talk about like stuff that's not necessarily canonical, but like we talked into about the laurels of command. Like, oh, is Gilliman wearing them? I don't know.
Conspiracy corner.
Yeah. Back to the blood here. The blood tide is so rad. It's just straight up chaos. Like this being the first relic we're talking about in chaos, it fits the bill. It is the vibe. And does this have any tabletop representation? Nope. Because
Too OP.
this too OP, man. Like there's just no way. There's no way. Kill everything.
I want to see it be like a normal 32 millimeter model, but then give it like Demon Primarch rules, and it costs 500 points for this little thing, and it gets Lookout Sir still, so you have to deal with all of that.
You're just painting it in like Stormhost silver, so it's just like one shade of silver too.
You got to get actual chrome like they use on cars, chrome it up all the way.
That's funny. That's like taking that sassy nerdling and using him as a demon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Little guy, big rules.
So fun.
Oh. Right on.
All right, the next weapon, or Chaos Relic, is probably a weapon. Soulbane. Soulbane is a fearsome demon weapon. Yep. Wielded for Tzeentch, the chaos god of change and sorcery. My least favorite god. I will fight anyone on that. Description and purpose. Incorporeal blade. The Soulbane harms only the victim's souls, leaving the physical body and armor untouched. This weapon is spectral, passing through physical defense and rendering shields and parries useless. It feels very Thousand Sunsy. Like there's nothing inside the armor. The sword doesn't need anything to hurt it. Just goes right through that stuff. Its attacks bypass material defense, causing the victim to suffer intense spiritual pain with no visible wounds. The victim's soul is slowly drained, making death especially agonizing. It's an unavoidable threat. The Soulbane's ghostly edge cannot be blocked. Evasion is the only way to escape it. The effects it has on its victims: those that are struck collapse in pain, feeling their souls shred away. With physical harm, they writhe. That is brutal.
Yeah, what a weapon, eh? Like
that is brutal.
Just it goes through, and you see your friend get cut down by this thing, although he didn't get cut at all. And you go to examine his corpse, and you're like, "Oh, he's fine. There's no blood anywhere. Like he didn't lose his what? But he's dead now." And like, yeah, what a trip it would be.
I wonder two things. One, I know they said you can't block it physically, but could a psyker like maybe stop it from hitting them with a force field or a psyker field? And then the other thought is a psyker able to mend the wound? That might be too deep in the weeds for it, but just some thoughts that I thought of, because like it's a very horrific weapon and clearly empowered by a chaos god. But what could be the counter other than like a very powerful psyker who can mend a soul or stop a ghost blade?
Yeah, like if you had super powerful will, would that be enough to keep your soul
Yeah,
free from it? Like if you had a more powerful will than the blade did. Um,
that would be.
Well, and it talks about it. Your victim's soul is slowly drained, so this soul obviously then is going into the warp, I'm assuming, rather than like in some cases you would see souls going into the blade itself. So I don't know if there's room here on that of like, well, maybe the blade's getting empowered by these souls that are being, collected by this blade itself. I don't
That's
know.
interesting.
yeah. I would imagine the only surefire way, like they said, is evasion, but the other one would be Sisters of Silence or blanks to kind of stop this. Like, then would all of a sudden it becomes just a normal weapon, and it then does have to clank off your armor.
I
Ooh,
don't
yeah.
even know if it really, because it kind of describes it as a ghostly blade. Does it even really have a physical thing you could touch, or is it just like kind of a wispy? Because I was
Mm,
thinking when I was picturing it in my head, it was kind of a wispy thing that you have this hilt, and then there's this wispy blade that you can see, and then if you try to block it, it just doesn't care, it goes through.
yeah. Ghost
Yeah,
sword.
Yeah, and so okay, so here's a couple questions then. Yeah, so if a Sisters of Silence did get hit by it, they don't have a soul anyway, so they would be fine.
yeah,
Yes. That
it
sounds
would just go
right.
through, then like nothing happened, and then the whoever's holding it would get punched in the face.
Again, like, okay, here we go. We're gonna triple
Here
nerd.
we
So,
go.
so Lord of the Rings, like when Aragorn and part of the Fellowship, Gimli and Legolas go into the caverns of the dead, and Legolas shoots his bow through, the ghost's head, and nothing happens. I imagine it's the reverse. It's like the reversal of that. So when you hit Sister of Silence, really, it's nothing's happening.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
then the moment that it strikes something that has a soul, boom, there it is. And slowly drained, like ripping this thing. So I
As
wonder,
they're
like,
just like crumpling on themselves, screaming.
right,
Ugh.
like, okay, so you wield this thing, and there's a, unit of like 5 guardsmen that are just left over, and I like hack and slash through 5 of these guys very easily, and then move on to the next. Like, are they all just writhing in pain? And because it's not instantaneous, like they just kind of collapse and just slowly dying, and you're watching her brothers like, what the fuck just happened? An invisible sword hit them, and now they're like, dying. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no blood anywhere. They're just
No.
like, yeah.
I
Ugh.
wonder. I'm kind of picturing like that's got to feel like just intense burning or something going through your body.
A war STD. Nice.
Because like I,
What is this intense burning I'm feeling? Oh, that's my soul leaving
yeah,
my
because I
body.
don't know. Because they say it's very painful, and I'm like, I don't know of anything more painful than like burning or like when something is in your gut and it feels like it's ripping your intestines open or something. I don't know what else that could be other than an intense burning sensation, which would really suck.
Yeah, yeah. Or like if you're sick and you have like food poisoning or whatever, there's like that 10-minute stretch where like, oh, I don't like what's happening, and you
Yeah.
feel like your stomach contracting, and then all of a sudden you vomit up your soul.
Oh, man, I've been there in Atlanta, brother.
Oh god.
Seafood poisoning. Yeah. And okay, here we go. Quadruple nerding. In Harry Potter, when the Dementors suck your soul out, like I kind of picture when you get hit with this thing, like it almost slow motions and like kind of pulls part of your essence out as it strikes you, just like this
Oh
kind of coming
yeah.
out, There it is.
Purge says would getting nicked by it as opposed to a full slash change how long it took to drain you. That's a very cool image that you just said as he kind of
Ooh.
texted that, where like, yeah, it right through the body you see this huge soul wisp go, but if it's just through the arm, you're still fucked in the end. But it's like you're doomed now for an hour of agonizing pain as you're slowly bleeding your soul out through that wound.
That makes sense. I feel like that's accurate. Like you got struck in the arm or something, and now it has to kind of overcome the rest of you and take you bit by bit versus like you get stabbed through the heart or something. And I don't know,
Yeah.
we're going into a little bit of the spiritual part of like where is your soul in your body kind of thing. But I think that's a rad thought to think about. Yeah, like these are
Yeah.
the fun little niche things of like, okay, well, I just, you know, I have my like X-Acto knife and I'm hobbying, but it's the, the soul blade kind of thing, and I like nicked my finger. Oh fuck, now I'm like 4 hours into a soul drain here.
Like in anime and stuff, when people are ducking or dodging things, and the blade will just like shing, cut their hair or something. Like, so if I'm dodging this thing and it cuts my beard, am I done? Like, am I cooked? Is that it? Is my
Yeah.
hair part of my soul's body? I need to know. Do I have to shave before I fight the dude with the soul sword?
Yeah, I can tell you, as a man with a nice beard, when I shave this beard off, I'm not the same person. It's a part of me, I'm a different. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you gentlemen letting me on with my minimal facial hair.
It's fine. You
Okay.
focused on the top of your head and you went
Mhm.
with the crazy.
You've also got the jawline to work with it. Like, I don't have a solid jawline like you do. I couldn't get away with just a little goatee. I need all of this.
There we go. We got the chops, baby.
And the chops.
Right on.
Gotta have the chops.
On tabletop, does this thing have any rules or anything?
No, apparently it was in Warzone Fenris, The Curse of the Wolfen, which is a super cool title. It was one of the Hellforged artifacts of Tzeentch, but I do not know if or what that had any effect on it, or if it was just an objective or something.
Yeah, a cool rule I think would just be, it does one wound in every turn, every phase. Maybe it does another wound, so it's just like you get hit by it, and that character will die if the game carries on long enough. Even if it's Gilliman, but the game doesn't last that many turns, so maybe it wouldn't kill him. But yeah, every phase you take another
That'd
wound.
be cool. Because if you hit them on turn 1, that's 5 damage it would take over the course of the game if it lived that long. That's a pretty cool little neat thing. And then if it goes, that'd be fun. Be hard to use, but it'd be fun.
I like it.
Oh, and you can't take a save against it. So there's the other cool part about it.
No.
Cool. We'll jump to the next one. I've actually talked about these ones during the Black Crusade episodes, and they're the Seer Stones. So the Seer Stones are sorcerous artifacts used by the Thousand Suns Chaos Space Marines. These crystal globes, typically about the meter in diameter, help enhance psychic navigation, allowing the user to track individuals or sorcerers. Wow, that's a word I'm not even going to say anymore. Through the warp. They are crucial tools for the Thousand Suns Warband, enabling precise raids and missions by amplifying their psychic sensitivity. In that Black Crusade episode, they talk about how these allow you to actually track the psychic scent of things, where you actually leave some type of, not a literal scent, but some type of psychic trail that these stones help navigate through the warp and track people down. It's a pretty cool relic.
Now, Mark, what would your psychic scent be?
Nerd.
What is it?
Nerd.
What color is it?
The nerd smell.
Rancid putrid green. Hard to say for sure. On tabletop, I couldn't find anything. Like I said, this was kind of more like a plot device for like a novel, more so than like something you'd use on like tabletop. It's one of the ways that they navigate the Eye of Terror so efficiently. Even though it's a crazy warp storm, it's like they can kind of use these stones to navigate.
This is also one of the few chaos relics that I've heard of that isn't a weapon and doesn't kill the user. So that makes it super unique in the terms of all chaos relics.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that, because we're gonna jump to Xenos Curiosities now, because when I found a bunch of cool Imperial ones that are like, this is so unique, or this is so unique, but basically when it was the Chaos ones, it's like, this has a demon inside it, it's gonna kill you, and it's just like, insert X item and X amount of time till you're dead, and that's the majority of Chaos relics.
Yeah. Well, shall we dive into the Xenos Curiosities, gentlemen? Here we go. I love it. We're going to kick this, man. We're kicking this one off with a very cool jam. I feel like, and I love that we're starting with some Necrons because I'm a Necron player. I love it. So, the Celestial Orrery. The Celestial Orrery is a formidable Necron artifact housed within the crown world of Thanatos and stands among the galaxy's most powerful and treasured relics. Yes, it does. Here we go. Description and structure. Ancient craftsmanship. Created by the artisans of the Oruskar dynasty long before the War in Heaven, the orrery combines necrodermis and intricate holograms. So necrodermis being the living metal that the Necrons have in droves. So it combines necrodermis and intricate holograms, mapping every star. I will say again, every star in the cosmos as tiny glowing lights floating in a massive web.
Yeah, and this isn't the galaxy. This is all everything.
Yeah,
Crazy.
this is it's a a map of everything. It's crazy. So the galactic power. So each light represents a star, and extinguishing any of these lights causes its physical counterpart to go supernova, obliterating surrounding systems long before their natural time. This immense destructive power is tempered by a strict need for balance to avoid critical cosmic chain reactions. Yeah. So, right off the bat, if you guys can kind of picture this, think of, just kind of the classic hologram. This thing comes around, but you have access to every star in the cosmos. And by by extinguishing one of these lights, that star that it represents goes out forever, like is gone,
Yeah.
goes supernova, deleted. Wild.
Yeah.
I mean, we call this like like it's a relic, it's a curiosity. This thing fucks shit up. Like, holy crap. Kaboom indeed. Man.
Uh, you mentioned the cosmic chain, and kind of the reaction that it causes and how dangerous it is. I think, like, yeah, this is so powerful. Like, how do the Necron not use it all the time? Like, what is this balancing act? And I just picture kind of like you have the whole everything of the cosmos, and then you try to zoom in, and you're trying to just good luck fucking finding the Milky Way galaxy. By the way, you're trying to zoom in, and you're like, this isn't it, this isn't it, and it could take you centuries just to find the Milky Way galaxy. And then even after that, it's like you got to find, well, where the fuck is Sol? Okay, let's try to zoom in, and like while it's this all powerful thing, it's almost unmanageable. It's so big.
Yeah, but I think there's a reverence to that. Weirdly, the Necron have, like, it is we keep seeing it in the chat, like it's this doomsday weapon, kaboom, it's crazy, like it is. However, the Necrons certainly see life as something to subjugate and to bend to their will, to rule over all of the cosmos. So why delete and kill everybody when then you've got no one to rule over? So I think going ham on this thing and just like hitting delete, is not really their intent here. And like it's been used, kind of the role and use, like it's been said that it's like a cosmic gardener. So with that, kind of feels like, yes, there's chain reaction. So like I love this idea of the butterfly effect. Like this star here goes out, which then affects this set of cosmos, which then will destroy this. Da, 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 da. So where do you need to strategically, if at all, delete things so others can thrive? Like the cosmic gardener, you're going to pull weeds. You're going to clip certain branches so that it doesn't invade other things. So the
Yeah.
Necrons seeing this as something a little more controllable versus just this doomsday device.
So for them, it's not really a weapon so much as it is like a management tool.
Yeah,
Because
a surveillance tool almost as well.
Yeah, because Jack's Carnage pointed out in the chat, you blow up one star over here, and then that turns into a black hole, sucks this star over here, and just causes this chain reaction. You can destroy the whole galaxy. But if this star right here is growing too fast and it's going to cause that chain reaction on its own, then you nip it in the bud before it can. Or maybe, I don't know if they.
Yeah, like you have a Necron empire that, its star is going supernova. And since, the Necron are essentially immortal, this is, there's going to be the heat death of the universe eventually. So instead of allowing these stars to go supernova and exploding your planets, you delete them before that happens. Because the Necron, yeah, they don't need light. They don't need the energy of the sun to still have a planet that works, so that would be another way to kind of be that cosmic gardener and to keep Necron population safe from exploding supernova stars and stuff.
Well, and they don't even have it readily available for just any Necron, truly. Like so Trazyn was allowed to see it, and he was under heavy guard. Like, it's not just, okay, you guys are having a problem with so-and-so, let's get the Celestial Orrery, and you're able to delete this. Like, there is a reverence for sure. So the Necron Royal Court of Thanatos views themselves as the stewards, using the Orrery's power carefully and removing stars only to prevent the galaxy from becoming, quote, overgrown. The court maintains balance, sometimes requiring centuries to stabilize any imbalance caused. So they do see like the level of control, but also that there is imbalance that happens when something is destroyed or plucked and whatnot. So I think, again, to just kind of boost up my own army here, Necrons are so rad. There is this reverence for it and understanding, because they're so ancient that they almost have this, we have the power of the galaxy and we have the greatest technology, and we're not just going to go willy-nilly with it, and it is protected. So due to its power, the orrery is vigilantly guarded with the Oroscar dynasty willing to go to war to prevent its misuse by rival Necrons or alien forces. So again, it's not just some willy-nilly, like, we're going to delete this thing and use it for how we want. And we kind of view that with Exterminatus, with the Imperium. Like, we view Exterminatus as this, like, oh, just kill the planet, just order an Exterminatus. And that doesn't happen often. Like, it's not just like this big control alt delete goodbye Terra, like we're talking Jack's Carnage in the chat. It's very rare, I would say, to probably use it. And again, even Trazyn was allowed to see it under guard. So and you're sure as fuck not going to see this on the table. Nope.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, another nice little safeguard too is like for 60 million years, have Necron even really been awake to use it?
Good point. Yeah, good point. And my curiosity with this too is, and I'm looking back just in the notes just to double check, but like, who made this? So, created by the artisans of the Oroscar dynasty, but like how?
With an STC.
You went too far back in the notes.
Yeah, my goodness.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about like all Necron tech. It's that saying where technology is indistinguishable from magic to people who don't know or whatever. Like, all of Necron technology is so like, how the fuck is that possible? And I think the only real saving grace is, well, not the only one, but a saving grace is the Satan, and these star gods might have taught them how to do such a thing. Maybe they're feeding on the stars, and they kind of somehow tied into this and allowed them to kind of preen stars for them, or who knows, man. But the Satan definitely add this like magical bit to it, almost otherworldly bit.
Yeah, and the idea that this thing ties into something that's millennia of light years away. This little light here, I have no idea. It's wild.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, that I think that one is probably the craziest relic artifact curiosity in the whole galaxy. The chat
Yeah, I agree.
Jack says, imagine if the orcs got a hold of it. Well, let's imagine if anyone got a hold of it that wasn't careful. Like, it's the most powerful thing in the entire in all time ever.
But if the orcs got a hold of it, they don't know what it is. So they're like, Christmas lights, like, and maybe nothing would happen. Like, I don't know. They just start like
Sure.
killing all these lights, and maybe because they don't realize what it's doing, nothing's happening. I have no idea.
Sure. So cool.
Yeah.
All right. So the next relic, I kind of feel is cooler than the one you just read personally, but it is.
Shut
No,
your
you're-
mouth.
It is.
Shut your whore mouth.
It is the Breath of the Gods. It is a Necron and Catan artifact. The Breath of the Gods, also known as the Koenag to the Eldar. I have no clue how to pronounce that. It's an ancient Catan artifact of immense and dangerous power. Energy manipulation. The device can siphon energy from stars across time, past, present, and future, essentially giving the wielder a nearly unlimited power source. So they too can snuff out stars. They just suck out the power from whatever they want. Creation of solar systems. It has the ability to create a new star system thanks to its time manipulating capabilities. So it can destroy and it can create. And temporal risks. Its manipulation of time is hazardous. Improper use could disable the timeline or erase it entirely. I personally think that because it can create, destroy, and change time, it's cooler and more powerful than the Celestial Orrery.
I just wonder if there's a limit to the distance that this thing has. Like the Celestial Orrery has the entire universe at its control panel, where this one, it's like, do you actually have to be visible to the star? Is it a 10 light year range? We don't
That's
fully
true,
know.
because I was assuming it was unlimited range like the other thing, but if there's a limited range to it, so it does scale it back a little bit.
But still wild, the fact that it can create and has all these time shenanigan effects as well.
You could, in theory, use both relics at the same time, like nuke a star you don't want, and then use this one, suck the energy away from it, and then put a new galaxy you do want right there. So you can go super gardener with that and put, like, I don't like that weed, pull it out and then put roses right there, or a new tomb world or something.
But
Cool.
but do you have that much control of what you're creating? Like, it says it has the ability to create new star systems and it manipulates time. Like, do you have the ability to be detailed in your
I feel like
creation
if you can
Sure.
or
Do you-
manipulation?
if you can manipulate time, just keep doing it until you get the one you want.
I suppose, yeah.
I'm pretty sure
And
you're
you
fucking
have
up time
unlimited-
at that point. But
Yeah, no, then you just go back
Hey.
in time to before you did it, and you're fine. I don't know why this is a problem.
I've seen Back to the Future. I know how this works.
Someone's going to end up fucking their mom. Jeez. Fuck.
We're gonna get Chuck Berry, thankfully. There we go.
All right. So we do have some history for it of its use and its misuse. Vetius Telux Ambition, the Magos explorer. I'm not going to say his name again. Sought the breath of the gods and was later declared lost. Unbeknownst to the Imperium, he found it, but its influence drove him mad. He planned to use its power to cleanse Terra and Mars of life, intending to become the new emperor. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that. And see, if they had worn the mask earlier and looked at this guy, they would have seen that was his goal was, so they would have killed him beforehand. So his experiments with it, after failing to access the breath's full power through the Noctis labyrinth, he experienced with herd entropy abilities on his forge world, Xeno, using the herd's time warping effects to achieve his destructive ambitions. He was ultimately stopped by the Archmagos Lexel Kotov, along with forces from the Kotov Crusade and the Eldar of Beltan, led by Belanian Farel. I'm doing my best here. I got all the names.
I know you did.
Yeah. Your best is not good enough. You can join me and Trevor and learn some reading lessons.
I am
We
legitimately
start with
dyslexic.
Diadoc and
I'm dyslexic, so I'm at a double disadvantage. These names are weird, and it doesn't work.
that's what I tell people too, but thank God lying's not a crime, eh?
I'm not lying!
Just full send these names and just go, yeah, it's and the Eldar Bieltan led by Brown.
We're almost done. We're almost done. All right. When Kotov killed Telek aboard the Arch Mechanicus Spretnaz, and the partially active breath of the gods destabilized and was destroyed without Telek's control, freeing the captive herd. It does not have tabletop rules.
I want to know, what is this thing? So we keep talking about what it can do. What is it? What does it look like?
I don't know why. I was kind of picturing Dr. Octopus's fusion reactor from Spider-Man 2. I don't know why, but that kind of like big thing that you can control, and because you have to have some kind of control where you can see what you're doing. So I feel like it's a big thing with a screen or an orb that you can manipulate and be like, okay, I'm going to rewind time here. I'm going to take this star out. And I'm going to put this star seed here, and then let it go forward to see what happens. That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's limitless possibilities, really, when you give it something like manipulating time and space. Like it's just one of those, you do whatever you want with it kind of thing.
It's also kind of interesting.
Stars the limit,
right?
In this case.
It's interesting that it says his goal was to wipe Terra and Mars and then establish him as the new emperor. So his goal was, I don't know exactly how this thing works, because how are you going to wipe two planets specifically of life, then establish yourself as the thing, when I thought all it could do was suck or add energy to stars? So it has other offensive capabilities that we don't fully understand. Like this is a bonkers relic. In addition to the first one, this is just wild, all the things you could do with it.
Yeah, which is why there's certainly no tabletop representation. Or maybe,
but if there was, what would
maybe
it be?
that's us at the table, and every time I allow you to reroll. No, man, sorry, that's a cocked dice. We're redoing that moment on the table. Like, oh, you know what? Shoot, I forgot to do this thing like in my shooting phase. Can I do that real quick? That's what we're doing.
You guys ever seen the show Community, where they do the probability episode
Love
where they
it.
roll dice?
Yeah.
Classic.
Yes.
That was a good
Oh my
one.
gosh. Okay. At some point, maybe not tonight, but if I'm on another episode, I have a Community mug that I'll be sipping out of, and it says something like, 2020, the darkest timeline.
Oh god,
And it has like the dice on
That's
it, like
funny.
perfect. And it has like Abed's goatee, the evil Abed goatee.
I just thought of one other cool thing you could do with it for tabletop wise. You pay 2,000 point game, you pay 250 points or something, or you don't get any command points for 2 battle rounds, but you're allowed to reroll for first turn, which is not something you could ever reroll. But if you pay a hefty price, because it's a big thing, like no command points or it's 10% of your army, you can reroll to take first turn. Your opponent can't, but you can.
Yeah.
So if they roll a 3 and you roll a 2,
funny.
pick that bad boy up. You've got a 50-50 claim in that sucker.
Oof.
So
heck yeah. Yeah, that'd
write
be a
that down
powerful
for
one.
Homebrew Court. We're going to do that later.
Gotcha.
You listening, GW?
Hire me!
Jot that down. Cool. The next item, we're jumping away from Necron and their crazy powers over to Tau and a Necron artifact they might have found, potentially. Dun, dun, dun. The Dawn Blade. The Dawn Blade is a unique and potent relic wielded by Commander Farsight of the Tau, discovered in a temple on Arthas Moloch, this ancient weapon holds mysterious properties that have significantly shaped Farsight's life and legend. Key characteristics: extraordinary power. The Dawnblade is imbued with unknown energy, making it incredibly sharp and capable of cutting through even the toughest enemies and armored vehicles with ease. Chronographic alloys. Unbeknownst to Farsight, the blade is crafted from chronographic, time consuming alloys. This allows the weapon to absorb the remaining lifespan of any being it kills, adding these years to Farsight's own life. This hidden effect explains Farsight's unnaturally prolonged life over the 3 centuries. Yeah, what a cool weapon. So, there's tons of weapons in 40K that we glossed over with demon weapons where it's like, the demon weapon kills somebody and then the demon devours the soul. But this one is like, it's a technological thing where it's made of these chronographic, time-consuming alloys that somehow transfers the life force, maybe soul, or however they measure that time, and it transfers it onto Farsight.
And is it transferring just on the bearer? Like, so if you had this, like, you could just, it transfers life to you. So whoever is wielding it, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And it's weird, like, unbeknownst to Farsight, like, he just doesn't know that this is happening.
No, I think he is aware of it now, because
Okay.
he's like 3 centuries old. And this whole thing, I haven't read the Farsight book, Crisis of Faith, so maybe somebody who reads that book would have a little better understanding of it. But yeah, no, it's like he's aware of it. He's old at this point. People have rumors and like, how is he so old? But I don't think anyone else knows that this is the case.
Yeah, he's just sitting there. He's just like, I just don't age. I don't die.
I just eat two eggs a day and I feel healthy.
Man, my colonics are fantastic.
Yeah. I like to think this is a Necron type artifact, just with like time shenanigans. That's very Necron-y. A type of weird metal, also kind of Necron-y. Lots of people maybe think it was some type of chaos artifact, but this doesn't have the typical chaos influence of now you're dead and everyone around you is fucked because of it. This is like a side effect free lifespan blade.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I don't know why, but maybe this is one of the things I heard a long time ago, but I always heard it was an Eldar sword. And maybe that's just one of those things that I was told that when I joined the hobby in 5th edition, and I'm just like, oh yeah, it's an Eldar sword, and I just rolled with it forever. That's
Yeah, and I kind of always thought it was like chaos
yeah,
too, because it kind of had that chaos vibe. But
I've always pictured it even definitely Necron, because if you look at kind of the way it's shaped, it's kind of got like the Necron blade form more so than an Eldar clean looking blade. Like the edge has like, I don't know how you describe a blade like this.
kind of like the not a sickle, but it's straight and then curves at the end.
Yeah.
Oh, here, no.
It does seem pretty Necron-y, and I feel like that makes sense for the Necron, just coming from the Necron tier where like all they wanted was longer lifespan and healthier life,
Yeah.
It's interesting though then to think, was this crafted by them and it just kind of fell into different hands? I don't know. It's pretty rad though.
It's a cool blade for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking at older pictures of it, because the new one definitely looks more Necron-y, but the older pictures of it wasn't as pronounced. It was more of a, like, it still had that divot, but that divot went all the way to the back half of the blade, which might be why I thought it was an Eldar sword. I agree now, though, it looks a lot. Yeah, okay, yeah, because I'm looking at a picture of an Eldar sword. Eldar swords look like the way it used to look, but the way it looks now is much closer to a Necron sword. That's interesting. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we don't know where it's from, who made this fucking thing. We just know Farsight is using it, and it doesn't seem like he's going to stop using it anytime soon. Because on tabletop, it packs a punch in melee, which might be the only one in all of the Tau Armory. So it had some cool rules. It's got two different like profiles. It's got like a hard hitting one and more of like a sweep attack. So I don't know what these stats even mean, but one's a strength 10 hit, which is pretty fucking wild in my mind.
That's actually just light tank in this edition because they went up to strength 12 for the bigger tanks. So it's not nothing to sneeze at, but it's not going to punch through a Land Raider.
Oh, crazy. Yeah, okay.
But even then, it's weird that it doesn't have some sort of like you strike with this and then gain a wound. Maybe it does, and I just have.
I mean,
but
3 damage is also really high in this edition. So that thing.
But still, like its whole thing is like stealing the life force. Yeah, so for it to not have, and I recall it never really having that kind of rule. It seems so strange. I just remember it kind of, starting out as a power sword and then slowly maybe becoming more traditional rules that we know today. But
yeah, that's different.
Yeah, I'm looking with it. It just, I don't really see anything as far as Dawnblade goes with gaining.
Maybe
wounds
it's one
back,
of Farsight's abilities. Because since that sword is only used by him, maybe they gave the ability to Farsight when it, lore-wise, it's the sword that does it. But
at least on Wahapedia, I don't see anything.
Yeah,
but
interesting.
Anyways,
all right,
cool. Dawnblade, sick. All right, we're
Yeah.
cruising now. We got the we're talking about the Atlas Infernal, which is Harlequin. We're gonna find out here. So the Atlas Infernal is a unique Imperial relic, a living map of the Eldar Webway. Okay, currently in the hands of High Inquisitor Bronislaw Chevak. It was stolen from the enigmatic Black Library, a hidden repository of chaos knowledge. Key characteristics and powers: it's got arcane construction. So built like a book, the Atlas is crafted from an extraordinary lightweight metal that is also highly durable, resilient enough to deflect a bolt round with minimal damage. So definitely kind of not to the same extent as the tablets that we talked about before, but it definitely has a lot of resilience and durability to it. Living pages. Instead of paper, its pages are composed of wafer-thin crystals layered with skin from blanks. That's like, it feels like the weird Imperium version of the Necronomicon, which is pretty wild. So blanks are humans with rare anti-psychic quality that we talked about, possibly linked to a captured Sister of Silence from the Webway. These skin layers, kept alive by a small blood pump in the book's spine, fucking wild, ensure the Atlas remains resistant to the warp's distortions. Oh man. I mean, if there was ever a cool book in 40K lore, like this seems to be it. And it's rad that this was stolen as well.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. And so it's a living map that the Atlas Infernal's veins shift to display paths and destinations across the webway. It reacts to the desires of its user, with the map shifting to guide them toward the location they seek. So a little bit kind of like the compass in Pirates of the Caribbean, like the desire, like the greatest desire of your heart. This is where it points you to.
Yeah.
Oh, did we just like 5 nerd this thing now? I think.
Yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't think we've ever made that kind of reference on this show before. So wow.
Well, I got the tattoo. To prove it. There we go. Woo. So it guides the user towards their desires, and the map shifts to guide them towards the location that they seek. This reactive feature keeps it accurate and responsive even after millennia by adjusting to the changes within the webway's paths. Very cool. I like that this is it's not a weapon. It can be weaponized. It's not, however, a weapon.
Yeah. But like, yeah, like you said, like it's crazy powerful though. Like just imagine being able to chart the webway. You can pop up anywhere in the galaxy in a moment's notice. Um, we did an episode 105 on the webway, and it was a great episode just learning about how the webway actually operates and all the different pathways and corridors and the lost little nooks and crannies. And for this thing to be able to map it out and accurately, what a relic, man.
Yeah, and how too, because what's interesting is if it's mapping out the webway, which the webway is ancient compared to humanity, right?
Yeah.
And yet it's so if we look at its construction, it's composed of wafer thin crystals layered with skin from blanks. So blanks are human, they just have anti-psychic quality. So this thing was constructed in a way, however many years after the webway was actually formed, that now interacts with the webway, which is ancient,
Yeah.
but it's human in a way. So it kind of reflects upon the Emperor's webway project a little bit. Like it touches that vein where it's like, no, we're tapping into the webway in our own unique humanity way.
Yeah. The way this was written, once again, it's impossible for me to read every book. Sometimes I just grab things like, you can't do a deep dive on this one thing and read all the books, but I kind of picture this like, so this was found in the Black Library. So who runs the Black Library? Segarak, the laughing god. And,
Right.
he's the master of the webway. He can traverse it all anyways. And then we got these wafer thin crystals, which, definitely some type of Eldar technology or like capability. And then the other piece of the puzzle is, the Inquisitor, High Inquisitor Broslog or whatever. We're kind of getting this information from his point of view. So we look at the Imperial blanks and the Sisters of Battle, but you know who else has blanks? Harlequins have blanks, and
Mm,
what is the one guy with the death mask? He almost looks like the Grim Reaper. That guy's technically a blank. So was this thing made with them more so than actual
Morgan Raw.
humans? No. It's a specific
No.
Harlequin troop. Harlequin
Oh, okay. It's like the
blank. Let's
Death
just Google
Jester
that.
guy.
The Death Jester, that's exactly it. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that guy's a blank. So I can just imagine, like, yeah, this Inquisitor is trying to piece it together, and he can't quite figure it out. But I think it all comes back to, like, the Laughing God, and he made this with some Eldar technology and Eldar blanks and all that kind of stuff. Because, yeah, he's also the master of the webway. But very crazy artifact that this somehow is able to do all this and make the webway this ever-changing, breaking, shifting world, alternate realm. It's like mapping the warp, essentially. Like how do you do that? Like it's very similar.
Yeah. And it's got a blood pump.
Blood pump.
I want to see this in like cosplay form. I want someone to make this, like this book that has this blood
That's
pump.
that's going to be the next
Yeah.
limited edition Eldar Codex. It's going to have a little blood pump included because the rules are ever changing.
Yeah, and well, speaking of rules, this thing certainly doesn't have tabletop representation, or at least that we can find. I mean, there's no way. It's rad.
I don't even know what it would look like and do on the tabletop. Like
some sort of deep striking thing, maybe. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, I know they have like webway portals that you can put down. I don't know if in this edition they're like actual terrain features that you pay for and get benefits, or if it's more just like a cinematic terrain piece, those portals. But
I have never actually seen anyone use terrain for anything other than just a set piece, so I have no clue if it's got rules or not.
But what a cool piece to use in your own campaign again. Like we're talking about creating your own campaign or crusade or something. Like this sounds like such a cool way to incorporate that in your own narrative gameplay.
Be super crazy, and you can go through that and pop up on someone else's table, so you can interfere in other games. Just get
Yeah.
super narrative with it. Let's go.
Yeah. I love it. Hell yeah. Cool.
All right, we're going Dark Eldar for this one. This is the Glass Plague, which sounds amazing. The Glass Plague is a terrifying biological weapon used by the Dark Eldar of Kamarag, originally developed in secret by the artist Jalaxolor as a means to create lifelike crystal sculptures. It was revealed that these sculptures were actually the persevered forms of Dark Eldar who had been infected with a virus that transformed living tissue into crystalline glass. The work earned him temporary fame in the Kamaraga's art circles, praised for capturing the expressions of intense fear and agony. That's cool. That is a
What an art piece.
Fear and agony. It's like the slogan of the Dark Eldar. Come to Kamara. Fear and agony.
yeah. When I read the name, I was like, "Oh, how is this going to loop back to Papa Nurgle somehow?" But I'm like, "Oh, no, 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 no! He doesn't want this. This is way cooler." All right. Its origins and its spread, the discovery and catastrophe. His virus was accidentally unleashed on a large scale after a rival house attacked his gallery, damaging his lab and releasing the virus into the air. This airborne contagion spread rapidly, crystallizing thousands of Dark Eldar before being contained by a homunculi coven known as the Hex. The virus causes irreversible transformation into glass, resulting in what is known among the Dark Eldar as true death, a form in which no homunculus can regenerate or revival technique can recover them.
Yeah, that's what makes this thing so crazy. It's like that true death. Like you read so many stories where the Eldar go on raids and they die and it's fine because they've paid the homunculus to keep a part of their finger as like a tie point or whatever back to the realm or the world. So, but this gets rid of that. Like, yeah,
And it does it in a so non-Dark Eldar way too, where it just crystallizes them. Like done. Like there's no, I would imagine it's not gory. There's not a lot of viscera or blood or anything like that. Like it just freezes you.
yeah.
Done.
It
And that's
almost
it.
like ties to maybe not quite, but when are they spirit seers, far seers? Yeah, they're far seers on Eldar craft worlds. They have their gardens, and over time, if they're looking into the future too much, they get crystallized into their form.
Mm.
But what the tie-in isn't. I don't know if there really is one necessarily, but
I think just
they're both.
thematically,
Yeah.
I do like that it talks about the art and how beautiful that is, because like that's a horrific way to die, but there's beauty in the way you die with that. That's such a cool juxtaposition. I really like this one.
It's very Medusa.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact it's airborne is
Yeah.
is insane. But
Yeah, I wonder how widely affected Kamara was from this. It was
Yeah.
airborne, like you said, and like the Dark City, the craziness of Kamara, like it's big. It's a big city, but it's also like it is overrun with life as far as it's crazy. So
Yeah.
like were just portions and sections of this city like just frozen solid with death,
Yeah, and Vect cut them off from the rest of the city to contain it and stuff,
right?
spread. And if you go to that area, you're get infected too and crystallize. Like, yikes.
it's crazy. So it was weaponized, because we're talking about how fun and easy it is to kill with it. After witnessing its terrifying effects, the Hex Coven weaponized the Glass Plague, adding it to their arsenal as a fearsome biological weapon that could be delivered as a final death, a concept deeply feared by Dark Eldar. The Glass Plague is thus both a weapon of psychological terror and physical devastation, used selectively in its brutal and unforgiving power struggles. That is so cool, and it doesn't have any tabletop rules. But if it did, I feel like you could use it kind of like the way Orbital Strike used to work, where you pick a point and then you roll dice to see if it hits, and if it does, like over, like we talked earlier, over the course of turns, your models just become crystallized and they're just dead. But thematically, you have to leave them on the tabletop, so they're stuck there as like new
Yeah.
terrain features. Would be kind of neat.
That'd be cool. That'd be such a unique rule that I can't ever think of anything else like that where you actually leave models and like now, yeah, you've created this new cover system.
Yeah, that'd be because I don't maybe it was a house rule, but I remember when I was playing fifth and sixth edition when we would blow up a tank, we had those electric flicker candles. Well, we had those, but painted with cotton balls on top of it. Yeah.
The smoke and
So
the
if
cotton.
somebody's
Yeah.
tank got popped, we'd take the turret off the top because the tank blew up, but then we'd light that and put it on top, and now that was a terrain feature and part of the map as we kept fighting. I always thought that was built into the rules. I didn't know that was a house rule.
Yeah. I think you're right now. I think I just forgot about that's how that used to kind of work. But yeah, it's been so long since I've kind of read through that, but yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it was super cool.
Yeah, very cool weapon. Like just it can actually fully kill a Dark Eldar. You know that guy's dead, or at least trapped in that crystal for all time. I'll take it.
Yeah.
We'll jump to the final relic, and we're gonna give some minor Xenos a little love. The spy flies of the Jacaro, which are like those orange orangutan guys that like to make digital weapons. And you ask them to make you a cool las cannon, instead they make you an electric razor for your beard. Like, well, thanks, thanks, friend.
The MacGyver of ape technology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have the spy flies, and they're small insect-like reconnaissance devices created by the Jacaro, an orange-furred simian species known for their advanced and arcane technology. These tiny crystallized machines are designed for surveillance, capable of buzzing through the air with nimble precision and transmitting detailed images of their surroundings. Key features: design and function. The spy flies are engineered for flight, making them agile and capable of moving freely through various environments. Their primary function is surveillance, as they transmit everything they observe back to an eye screen that can be viewed by the operators up to 20 kilometers away. Two-way communication. Unbeknownst to the Imperium, spy flies are also capable of projecting holographic astral shape, allowing them to reverse their observational abilities and serve as a two-way communication device. This is theorized to be their true purpose, although the mechanics believe this function are not fully understood by outsiders. And psychic control. The operation of the spy flies is believed to require psychic input from their users. The operators interact with the eye screen, which displays the collective views of the flies in a mosaic format, with the tiny faceted eyes of the flies shown in a crowded pattern. To alter the spy fly's function, special runes and arcane litanies are needed, suggesting that there may be mystical elements involved in their operation.
So does this suggest then that the Jacaro have psychic abilities then?
Yeah, and that's what I wondered too. And if it's like a latent type of ability that gives them this understanding of technology, almost like how the orcs have that kind of built-in technological understanding, or if this is like such a specialized thing where they do have psychers, but it's 1 in a million Jacaro and only that guy can use it. Hard to.
And I don't know, it's interesting. It makes sense for the Jacaro to have psychic abilities just because of their technological understanding and what they can build and create. I wonder though if it says it's believed to require psychic input from their users. I wonder if that's just the Imperium kind of chalking it up to like, it just must be some psychic ability that they have, and not giving them the credit that's due of like, no, they just have the wherewithal and the knowledge to use this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I thought kind of like how we said the Laurels was an electronic thing. I kind of picture this just being an electronic thing, and Imperial propaganda makes sense that, oh, they're not smart enough, so it must be warp power. I buy into that.
Right.
What is it called when like you manifest somebody else's kind of energy. Maybe I'm not describing that right. Let me tell you a little bit more. So, what if the reason the Jakaro never build what they're intending to build is because they're literally manifesting some type of outside warp psychic presence that, like, once again, they don't know how this stuff works. They're just manifesting some type of technological being.
Oh, that'd be interesting too, and tying it in even further with like the Omnissiah and the machine god and like the machine spirit. Like this is maybe seeing that in a different form.
Yeah,
where
like they tap
it's
into
guiding
that.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like anti-orcs, where the orcs manifest things into existence. Something is using them to manifest itself into existence.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like a form of possession. Yeah,
that's
for
interesting.
sure.
To what end though? Like, is this force that's guiding them, like to what end is it serving their purpose? Like I don't know.
Could just be like a form of like intellectual reproduction, you know?
Maybe the Omnissiah.
Or like if it...
I was going to say, maybe the Omnissiah is bored of the Adeptus Mechanicus and is trying to get a different race to worship it.
or like if, you know, the warp is just like a reflection of our emotions or whatever. So it's like, you know, he's getting these monkeys to make technology, and that in return makes him grow more powerful through making these weird devices of like truly weird and bizarre origins, you know? But
yeah,
interesting. I don't know. There's a lot there that could happen with Jakaro, and when I read this, it really kind of opened up this whole like we just kind of came up with these three very cool different ways that the Jakaro might be interacting with the warp.
Yeah, and it's like when you guys did the original minor Xenos races and you touched on the Jakaro and others like the Harud and everything, it was so cool to see the possibilities that these Xenos have with how little information is provided.
Yeah.
And I like that it's not completely explained, and it just kind of gives us the, like, what would a Jakaro do in this situation? You know, like what would the Harud do here? And I think that's kind of wild and cool to speculate and not have answers for.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they have psychic powers, maybe they don't. And if they do, maybe they have no concept that they have psychic powers, and they're just attuned to it. They just have no idea that they're wielding this. You know? I don't know.
Very cool. Wow, what a relic to, or a curiosity, I mean, a Xenos curiosity to end on. This episode went long. We're at 3 hours and 13 minutes, so no call-ins this time. I know there's a couple people in the chat that are probably going to hate me for it, but hey, you can message me at the show and we can chat about stuff. Let's just, we'll get to the end notes. Hey, if you like listening to me talk and you have lore that you want me to read, I will read it to you. I'll read your lore to you on Lorehammer Listen to Lore podcast. I've set up a new studio, which means I don't have to worry about barking dogs or the odd crying child that I have nowadays. So I'm free to record listener lores, and I'm going to try to start doing a lot more of those. So look forward to that. Go check out the Listen to Lore podcast. Court, do you want to shout out something?
Yeah, so I was part of the Funkatronic Rex podcast, and it's, if you're into any sort of gaming, 40K, D&D, Warhammer, as far as Age of Sigmar goes, Magic the Gathering, even like we touch on Lorcana. There's a lot of cool topics that we've talked about. So it's a podcast that you can find on Spotify, you can find it on Apple, you can find it anywhere. It's Funkatronic Rex podcast. And so anywhere you listen to podcasts, go check it out. Me and a bunch of my friends who work at the game store just talk games. We do anything from mental health and gaming, how gaming, it positively affects mental health, to we talk about good games, bad rule book, like what games are cool but are not good as far as rule books goes. So
I've been invited on quite a few different podcasts, and I can honestly say yours was my favorite one that I've ever been invited on, man. You guys have a great show. It was so much fun, man. We were laughing, and it was just a great time. So go check them out for sure.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you.
And Logan, you want to shout out your Instagram again or YouTube channel? Sorry, I forget what you were doing.
Yeah, no, it's my YouTube. Yeah, it's my YouTube channel, Hydra Thoughts. We're going to be doing a couple series. One is a Cryptid Roadshow throughout America. Probably going to go up to Canada at some
Don't
point
do
too.
it! Don't
Check out what they've
fucking
got
go
going on
there.
All right, I'll go down. I'll go to
Come
Mexico.
to Panama with me, buddy.
No, I'll go to Panica. I'll check out Panama cryptids. That'll be one of my episodes now. But we're also going to be looking at conspiracy theories, historical events, fun things like the Killdozer. We're going to look at that. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, or maybe we'll talk about some Nord stuff. We got Zoids, Halo, 40K. We'll talk about it. Come hang out, see what's going on.
We'll give a quick shout out to the Patreons. This last couple days, we got Ben, Carl, Tuto, Bob. I know there's a couple others. Something's happened to my Patreon linking to my email where I'm not getting them. Although I see I'm getting new subscribers and stuff, it's not linking up properly. So if I missed your name, I do apologize about that. But I do appreciate the support. Every dollar that you give is money that I can use to do things, I suppose. Feed my child, we'll say in this case, or buy another chicken. Boys, Court, Logan, thanks so much for joining me. This was a fun episode. We learned a lot about nothing, essentially.
There's a lot of speculation, a lot of really cool creative abilities, and just talking about, I don't know, I think there's a lot of opportunity to use some of these things in your narrative gaming if you wish to.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, definitely.
Cool.
We wrote some of our own lore while we were sitting here.
Hell yeah. And we went to like 5 to 6 different nerd levels in this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No Star Wars reference though. We missed that one.
Wow.
It was, someone said it in the chat like a long time ago in a Galaxy Far. So the chat.
There we go. We made it.
That's why we have them.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we'll see you all on the next episode of Lorehammer. The next one we're doing is episode 121, and I'm just pulling up what that was again. Oh yeah, we're doing the part 2 of the Adeptus Arbites, and we're talking force organization, all the different ranks and how you become one and the promotion and all that. And we're also talking war gear. So come check us out tomorrow or Wednesday. And yeah, everyone have a good night. Adios.